Chapter 896. Under normal circumstances. After breaking through to the nothingness realm, one could ignore almost any kind of poison. This was also the reason why normal martial artists would not use poison in battle. If it was an ordinary spirit beast, under such circumstances, Longao would definitely sit by and do nothing. But the nine-headed snake was different. No matter what, the nine-headed snake had helped him deal with Lu Tianxi. If it were not for the nine-headed snake, he would not have been able to kill 4 Saint Emperors and break Lu Tianxi's arm so easily. Long Fu, what should I do? Master, I have no choice. The nine-headed snake has been poisoned by the ice silkworm. Unless it recovers on its own, it will definitely die. Before Longao could say anything, the nine-headed snake, who was on the verge of death, had already died. With a deep sigh, Longao got up and buried the nine-headed snake. He stood quietly in front of the nine-headed snake's grave and did not speak for a long time. Nine-headed snake, I will avenge you. He turned around and left. This time, he had successfully broken Lu Tianxi's arm. Longao was very clear that he had to take advantage of this opportunity to pursue. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to find such an opportunity in the future. In the following days, Longao did his best to devour the souls and blood of spiritual beasts. Not only that, Longao was also carefully looking for the flag in order to successfully win the alliance competition and enter the Martial Artists Alliance. Murong Yanga? On the 4th day, Longao suddenly saw a figure. Although he was a little surprised, he still followed. Longao, is it really you? Nodding, Longao looked at Murong Yanga in front of him and asked curiously, Yanga, why are you here? Longao was very curious because the great emperors of the Alliance were all disciples of the Martial Artists Alliance. Murong Yanga was only a disciple of the Sword Sect and did not have the right to participate in the Alliance competition. As if she knew Longao's curiosity, Murong Yanga smiled and said, Longao, this time I entered Tianwu Forest not to participate in the Alliance competition, but mainly to find you. Find me? This time, Longao was even more surprised. He did not know why Murong Yanga came all the way to find him. Longao, I already know everything about you and the Martial Artists Alliance and the Wanzhan School. Lu Tianxi is Martial Artists Alliance and Wanzhan School. So it was about this matter. It would be a lie if he said he was not moved. However, Longao knew that this was a true friend. He knew that Tianwu Forest was filled with danger. If she was not a true friend, why would she come and tell him personally? Thank you, but I will take care of this matter. Longao, I know your character. But if you set up too many things, you will not be able to do anything in Tianwu continent in the future. How could Longao not know what Murong Yanga meant? However, he always had a principle. If people did not offend him, he would not offend them. If people offended him, he would pay them back double. Longao did not say anything because he did not know what to say. Long family. He knew very well what Wanzhan School and the Martial Artists Alliance meant. As 3 of the 10 major powers in Tianwu continent, there was no need to say much about their strength and background. Longao also knew that if he became enemies with the 3 families, there would be endless troubles coming for him in the future. Longao, I have a plan. As long as you enter my sword sect, I believe that even the Martial Artists Alliance and Wanzhan School will not dare to act rashly. As for what to do in the future, we will discuss it at length. What do you think? Longao knew what Murong Yanga meant. She wanted to borrow the power of the Sword Sect to intimidate the Martial Artists Alliance and Wanzhan School. But would Longao agree? Without a doubt, Longao would not agree. If he had chosen to compromise, then things would not have reached this stage. Yanga, thank you for your good intentions. I will deal with this matter myself. That's right, let's not talk about this. Looking at Longao in front of her, Murong Yanga knew that he did not want to borrow the power of the Sword Sect. Sighing deeply again, Murong Yanga seemed to have sensed something. She asked, Longao, your cultivation has already broken through the realm of Saint Venerable? Seeing Longao nod his head in acknowledgement, Murong Yanga was also shocked. Because it had not been long since the last time, but Longao's cultivation had already broken through. Even in the Sword Sect, This kind of cultivation speed was definitely one of the best. I was just lucky. Smiling helplessly, Murongyanga and Longao found a clean place to sit down. Longao, your cultivation has already broken through the realm of Saint Venerable. If there are no accidents, I believe your cultivation will soon reach Saint Emperor. At that time, you will be able to enter the realm of Great Emperor. Do you know the 10 realms of Great Emperor? 10 realms of Great Emperor? Of course, Longao knew about the 10 realms of Great Emperor. The 10 realms of Great Emperor were divided into Red Great Emperor, Orange Great Emperor, Yellow Great Emperor, Green Great Emperor, Cyan Great Emperor, Blue Great Emperor, Purple Great Emperor, Black Great Emperor, White Great Emperor, and Gold Great Emperor. Above the 10 realms of Great Emperor was the so-called titled Great Emperor. Yanga, what are you trying to say? Murongyanga smiled and said, what I mean is very simple. With your talent and potential, I believe you will reach the peak of Saint Emperor very soon. At that time, you will enter the realm of Great Emperor. Longao still didn't know what Murongyanga meant, so he could only keep quiet. If a peak Saint Emperor martial artist wants to break through the realm of Great Emperor, he must comprehend himself and use his own strength to form the so-called domain power. Domain power? Although Longao knew about the 10 realms of Great Emperor, he didn't know about the strength that Great Emperor martial artists possessed. As for Murongyanga, he knew very well. As the daughter of the Sword Sect Master, Murongyanga definitely knew about the strength of Great Emperor. Comprehend oneself and use one's own strength to form a domain. In the following time, Murongyanga explained to Longao in detail about the domain power that Great Emperors possessed. It could be said that within a domain, Great Emperors were invincible. Because of this, Longao found it hard to imagine why the so-called Great Emperor martial artists he met didn't use their domain power. After thinking about it, Longao could only think of one reason. Ordinary Great Emperor martial artists, including Lu Tianzi, didn't take him seriously. It seemed like his luck was pretty good. This also proved one thing. Arrogance killed, but self-confidence killed even more. Longao, above the 10 realms of Great Emperor, is the so-called titled Great Emperor. Once you reach this realm, you can fuse with a trace of the power of heaven and earth. From there, you can continuously strengthen your domain power. Nodding his head, Longao had a rough understanding of everything that Murongyanga said. The 10 realms of Great Emperor, including the titled Great Emperor, actually played with the domain power. Chapter 897. Longao, from the first day I met you, I could feel endless killing intent from you. Endless killing intent. Longao was surprised. Of course, he knew what Murongyanga meant. Killing intent. He had been killed by the blood pool twice. Previously, he had almost become a puppet of the blood pool. Although he looked fine, he knew that he could be corroded by the killing intent at any time. Longao, although I don't know why you have such a great killing intent, I still want to remind you that you can't go on like this. Without waiting for Longao to speak, Murongyanga continued, the more you kill, the worse it will be for you. How could Longao not know about this? But what could he do? Unless he could completely destroy the blood pool, his killing intent would not disappear. Longao, if you continue like this, I have another thing that I'm worried about. Tell me. Longao was almost certain that Murongyanga was definitely not an ordinary person. It was impossible for such a small fire beacon city to have such a person. However, Longao did not ask too much. As a friend, he knew what to ask and what not to ask. If Murongyanga wanted to tell him, then even if he did not ask, he believed that Murongyanga would take the initiative to tell him. Longao, I'll say the same thing. With your talent and potential, I believe that you will soon be able to comprehend your own body. Longao smiled and did not speak. If this situation continues, once you comprehend your own body through killing intent and form the slaughter domain, then, at this point, Murongyanga paused for a moment before continuing. Although the massacre domain is the strongest among all the domains, the massacre domain has a relatively large backlash on the user. The slightest bit of carelessness will cause one to fall into an irrecoverable state. She sighed deeply. Regarding this matter, Longao could only say that he was powerless. After all, The blood pool was not an existence that he could control. He did not want to dwell on this problem. No matter what, he was only a holy venerate. He did not even know when he would be able to break through to Sacred Emperor, let alone Martial Emperor. Yang when are you going to leave? Why should I leave? Chuckling, Murong Yang continued, this time, I'm going to enter the Sky Martial Forest to gain some experience. Could it be that you don't welcome me? Of course, Longao didn't welcome it. If it was a good thing, he would have done it. But now, they were in the Sky Martial Forest, and danger was everywhere. There were even divine beasts. If anything happened to Murong Yang, he would not be able to escape the blame. But now that things had come to this, how could he refuse? Longao was very clear in his heart that Murong Yang's legs were growing on her body. Even if she did not follow him, she could still train by herself. Rather than that, it was better to follow him and take care of each other. Since that's the case, let's go together. In the following time, Murong Yang and Longao walked together in the Sky Martial Forest. Until now, Longao still did not know whether Lu Tianxi, whose arm had been broken, was still in the Sky Martial Forest. So, Longao did not care about Lu Tianxi. Longao was somewhat unsatisfied that he did not succeed in killing Lu Tianxi this time. Because Lu Tianxi's departure would bring him endless trouble in the future. Longao, there are only 100 spots for the Alliance tournament this time. But until now, you have not found any flag. We also do not know if the 100 flags are still there. Longao naturally understood Murong Yang's words. Tens of thousands of people had entered the Sky Martial Forest to search for the 100 flags. This kind of competition was too fierce. Just like what Murong Yang said, no one could guarantee that they would be able to obtain the flag. Even if you were strong, without you, you would not be able to smoothly win. This was his only and fastest way to enter the Martial Artists Alliance. Longao was very clear that nothing could happen. He had to obtain the flag in the Sky Martial Forest, pass the Alliance tournament, and enter the Martial Artists Alliance. Yang, what do you mean? Longao was not a fool. Since Murong Yang said this, she must have her own reasons. Just as expected. After thinking for a while, Murong Yang raised her eyebrows. Her face gradually became gloomy. She said coldly, this world is a world where people eat people. If you want to obtain what is yours, then you must be ruthless. You cannot be soft-hearted. Otherwise, you will only be eliminated by this world. Longao still did not say a word. Longao, what I mean is very clear. You don't have to look for it. Just keep an eye on the other people in the Martial Artists Alliance. When the time comes, just snatch it. Snatch. Longao did not dislike this word. Longao also knew that Murong Yang was talking about a world where people eat people. In the Sky Martial continent, strength was everything. Without a strong fist, you would only be beaten. If he could not obtain the flag and enter the Martial Artists Alliance, then he would not be able to see Yu Yin. At that time, who would sympathize with him? What he would receive would not be sympathy, but endless mockery, disdain, and contempt. Yang, you are right. Longao did not have the slightest bit of mercy. It was because of Murong Yang's words that even Longao himself did not realize that his state of mind had gradually changed. Although it was very small, no one knew whether it was good or bad for him. Catcher. Scar, you dare to kill people and snatch the flag. If this matter is known by the Martial Artists Alliance, you will not be able to bear the consequences. Somewhere in the Sky Martial Forest. Looking at the corpse on the ground, a middle-aged burly man with a face full of scars snorted coldly. He did not put the other party in his eyes at all. In front of the corpse, a weak young man trembled. After all, he was only a Saint Venerable. In front of him, Scar was a peak Saint Emperor warrior. He was only one step away from becoming a Crimson Great Emperor warrior. Do you think this matter will be leaked out? Scar sneered. He did not put the young man in front of him in his eyes. The metal ball in his hand was constantly spinning. Without any warning, Scar's whole body shot towards the young man. His goal was very clear. The young man was shocked. Before he could say anything, Scar's body had already arrived in front of him. Without giving the young man the slightest chance, Scar directly threw the metal ball at him. Catcher! The young man was directly smashed to death. Scar looked at the two corpses on the ground. Suddenly, he laughed crazily and said to himself, "Another flag. It seems that I am going to make a big profit again." Scar had already obtained a flag, but he still wanted to kill people and rob them. He wanted to use the flag to exchange for the treasure he wanted. However, Scar was very clear that this matter could not be known by the Martial Artists Alliance. Otherwise, he would die without a doubt. Killing people and robbing them. Not bad, not bad. Chapter 898. You are courting death. Scar suddenly laughed as he looked at the two people who appeared in front of him. Saint. Too little saint. Scar coldly said with contempt. I am really curious. What gave you so much courage to come here to court death? Scar had full confidence in his own strength. Just like when he dealt with the youth, he didn't give the youth any chance. He almost killed him in seconds. This was his terrifying strength. However, Longao and Murong Yanga looked at each other. Longao smiled and asked, Yang if this matter is leaked out, what do you think will happen to this person? He will die without a complete corpse. Longao and Murong Yanga echoed each other. They didn't put each other in their eyes. Scar couldn't bear to see such a situation. He shot out like an arrow, and the iron balls in his hands disappeared one by one. Yang I will deal with him. Murong Yanga nodded. She was also aware of her own strength. It didn't matter if others could do it or not, she couldn't do it. According to Murong Yanga's idea, she should find a warrior below the saint level. However, Longao insisted on dealing with the so-called Saint Emperor. What if he failed? However, things had already reached this point. Murong Yanga could only choose to believe in Longao. Murong Yanga retreated and left the fight to Longao and Scar. In the blink of an eye, the two had already fiercely fought. In an instant, they had already fought more than 10 rounds. There was no clear winner or loser. Longao was constantly dodging the iron balls. He didn't use any of his trump cards. Longao knew that he had to win this battle. The time had come. Longao's body disappeared in an instant. In the next second, he silently appeared behind Scar. You! Scar was startled when he sensed the powerful aura behind him. He never thought that the other party would be so powerful. He couldn't figure out how the other party did it. He didn't wait for Scar to turn around. The dragon roar turned into sword energy and shot towards him. Poochie! The sword energy directly penetrated Scar's body. Scar's body fell to the ground. Even until the moment of his death, Scar didn't know how he was defeated. Longao, did you really do it? Murong Yanga was surprised as she looked at the corpse on the ground. It was difficult to make up for the gap between their realms. Both of them had witnessed Scar's strength. Murong Yanga asked herself how many moves she could take if she was in Scar's position. Longao didn't hesitate as he took out all the flags from Scar's body. He wouldn't have known if he hadn't seen it, but he was shocked when he saw it. It turned out that Scar had dozens of flags. What kind of concept was that? One should know that in this grand competition, there were only a total of 100 command flags, but there were tens of thousands of people competing for them. However, Scar alone had dozens of command flags. There was no need to guess at all. Longao and Murong Yang already knew where Scar got those command flags from. Longao wasn't that greedy. Even if he took away all the flags, it wouldn't be of any use to him. Longao, you only took one flag. Longao nodded and said with a smile, my only purpose is to enter the Martial Artists Alliance. As for the other tokens, they are useless even if I take them away. Both of them helplessly shrugged and didn't say anything. This time, things went very smoothly. Longao was more or less relieved after successfully getting the flags. Because of this, he could smoothly enter the Martial Artists Alliance. It would be a matter of minutes before he saw Yu Yin. The two of them just left. In the next second, a black figure suddenly appeared. Hee hee. After a sneer, the corpse on the ground suddenly disappeared. Longao, you have successfully obtained the flags. You can be considered to have one. Are you going to continue to gain experience or leave the Sky Marshal Forest? Longao didn't even think about it. He said, I'm going to stay. Longao had already thought about this problem. He was very clear that this time, he was going to enter the Martial Artists Alliance. As one of the 10 forces, the Martial Artists Alliance's strength and heritage were there. Even if his cultivation had successfully broken through to the Supreme Realm, he was afraid that if he entered the Martial Artists Alliance, he would be at the bottom. At that time, any talented disciple from the Martial Artists Alliance could easily defeat him. Because of this, Longao had decided to wait until his cultivation reached the Supreme Realm before he entered the Martial Artists Alliance. At that time, he would have more confidence. The Alliance competition is only 3 months away. After thinking about it, Murongyanga didn't say it out in the end. Although she was very confident in Longao's talent and potential, was it possible for Longao to break through to the Supreme Realm from the beginner Supreme Realm in just 3 months? Murongyanga wanted to believe it, but reality told her that it was a little unbelievable. Looking at Murongyanga's expression, Longao had already guessed what Murongyanga was thinking. He smiled helplessly. Not to mention others, even he didn't have the slightest confidence that he could break through to the Supreme Realm from the Supreme Realm in just 3 months. Yang I will solve my problem. Thank you. Why don't we part ways now? After I settle the Martial Artists Alliance, I will come and find you. Longao had already thought about what would happen next. He would be devouring the souls of spiritual beasts, and his life would be in danger at any time. If Yang continued to follow him, he couldn't bear the responsibility. Moreover, he sincerely treated Yang as a friend, so all the more he couldn't do that. Murongyanga also knew what Longao meant. She nodded and said, all right, I also have urgent matters to attend to. I have to return to the sword sect. You have to be careful. I believe that we will meet again soon. I hope so. Longao didn't take Murongyanga's words to heart. This was because he was about to enter the Martial Artists Alliance, and the sword sect and the Martial Artists Alliance weren't on good terms. Who knew when they would meet again? Murongyanga left, but Longao stayed. The Alliance tournament was in 3 months. In other words, after 3 months, the Alliance tournament would end regardless of whether the flag was found or not. If you didn't leave the Tianwu forest on time and hand over the flag, then it would be useless even if you had obtained it. Because of this, Longao knew very well that he only had 2 months left. He was prepared to use this time to cultivate. He wanted to break through from the Supreme Realm to the Supreme Realm before leaving the Tianwu forest. If he could enter the Supreme Realm, then it would be the best thing. Although it was a little wishful thinking to break through from the Supreme Realm to the Supreme Realm, who knew if he would succeed if he didn't try? P.S. The last chapter will be updated in the morning. 5 chapters will be updated tomorrow. Chapter 899. Within the Sky Martial Forest. Everyone was frantically searching for the flag. Everyone wanted to join the Martial Artists Alliance and become a member of the Martial Artists Alliance. Everyone knew that once they joined the Martial Artists Alliance, it would be like a carp jumping through the Dragon's Gate. Tens of thousands of people were fighting for a few hundred spots. The competition was too intense. There was no other way. Everyone started to fight and kill each other. They all wanted to snatch the flag from each other's hands. Because of this, once someone obtained the flag, they would immediately leave the Sky Martial Forest. Once the flag was handed over to the person in charge of the Martial Artists Alliance, it meant that they had officially joined the Martial Artists Alliance. Longao. Walking alone within the Sky Martial Forest. Even after obtaining the flag, Longao did not immediately leave the Sky Martial Forest. Instead, he chose to stay and prepare to raise his cultivation. Devouring souls and blood essences was the only way to quickly raise his cultivation. Using both methods at the same time, Longao continued to kill spiritual beasts and devour their blood essences and souls. At the same time, Longfu used the blood pool to refine their souls and blood essences. Just like this, Longao's cultivation level increased at the fastest speed. In just 3 days, Longao went from beginner sacred saint to intermediate sacred saint. What kind of concept was this? With this kind of cultivation speed, even the most talented disciples of the 10 sects would not lose out to him. Within the cave, after devouring the soul and blood essences of a sacred saint spiritual beast, Longao had finally finished refining them. Devouring firmament art. According to Long Fu, once he cultivated the devouring firmament art, even if it was just a beginner, he could ignore any energy he devoured in the future. This was the devouring firmament art in the Chaos Stone tablet. It was extremely powerful. Within the dragon seal space. Long Fu, my cultivation speed is still a bit slow. I don't have much time. I need to forcefully reach the Emperor realm within 2 months. Is there a way? In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. In other words, there were only 2 months left before the Alliance tournament officially ended. At that time, regardless of whether he was willing or not, he would have to leave the Sky Martial Forest and join the Martial Artists Alliance. 2 months. Although Longao knew very well that it was basically wishful thinking for him to break through to Great Emperor from a mid-level Sacred Venerate in just 2 months, he had to break through. Great Emperor Realm. The Martial Artists Alliance was one of the 10 major powers. There were as many experts as there were clouds, and as many geniuses as there were dogs. Shapotian had said before that there were too many people who wanted to pursue Yu Yin. Whether these people really liked Yu Yin or not, Longao knew that these people would become his obstacles. The Holy Master, or even the Holy Emperor, was nothing but a joke to the terrifying Martial Artists Alliance. In fact, in the eyes of the Martial Artists Alliance, even martial artists of the Great Emperor Realm, or even martial artists of the Supreme Tao, were just a joke. Longao didn't even need to guess. He directly asserted that there were more than one Supreme Divine Path cultivators in the Martial Artists Alliance and even in the 10 sides. Master, you're too eager for quick success. How could Long Fu not know what Longao meant? But for Yu Yin, so what if he was eager for quick success? Longao didn't say anything. Long Fu already knew what his master meant. He knew his master's personality very well. Once he had decided on something, he wouldn't change his mind. Because of this, Long Fu didn't say anything else. He lowered his head and started to think. Longao didn't disturb him. After all, no matter who it was a little unbelievable. This was Long Fu. If it was someone else, he wouldn't have asked. Master, if you want to break through to Crimson Great Emperor from a mid-level Sacred Venerate in 2 months, there's only one way. As for what we did before, it's almost impossible. I understand. Longao knew that if he could break through without limit by forcefully devouring energy, then he could devour without limit. Not to mention the Great Emperor Realm, he could even reach the Supreme Divine Path Realm easily. Long Fu, what's the plan? Master, Murong Yanga told you before that you've been devoured by the blood pool twice. The slaughter force in your body is constantly increasing. If this continues, you'll be able to comprehend yourself through the slaughter force when you break through to the Great Emperor Realm. Long Fu, you're saying that you want me to comprehend the slaughter force in advance. That's impossible. How could a sacred venerate be able to comprehend oneself? If it was possible, Long Fu would have said it long ago. Why wait until now? Master, with your current strength, of course, you can't comprehend yourself through the slaughter force. Longao was depressed. Before Longao could say anything, Long Fu said, Master, the only way now is for you to enter the blood pool and comprehend yourself through the slaughter force. I believe that you'll be able to break through to the Great Emperor Realm in 2 months. Enter the blood pool? Hearing Long Fu's plan, Longao was shocked. Of course, he knew what it meant to enter the blood pool. If he were to enter the blood pool and be devoured by the blood pool, the consequences would be unimaginable. He couldn't even avoid the blood pool now. If others were to know about this, they would think that he was out of his mind. Long Fu, you should know the blood pool better than me. If I were to enter the blood pool to comprehend the slaughter force and comprehend myself, I'm afraid that I'll be devoured by the blood pool before I can break through to the Great Emperor Realm. You once said that if I were to be devoured by the blood pool for the 3rd time, I'll become a puppet of the blood pool. Master, I know what you mean. However, if you insist, I can only help you with all my strength. What does that mean? Master, although you'll be devoured by the blood pool, I believe that the blood pool won't be able to devour the dragon seal's last bit of strength. However, if I were to do so, my strength and the dragon seal's strength would be weakened. In the future, even if I want to help you, I'm afraid that I won't be able to. Longao understood what Long Fu meant. If it were in the past, Longao would definitely not agree. However, he wanted to break through to the Great Emperor realm as soon as possible so that he could enter the Martial Artists Alliance. Longao eventually nodded and said, Long Fu, don't worry. Since the dragon seal helped me this time, I'll help the dragon seal recover even more in the future. I believe that Master will be able to do it. However, Master, although I can help you when you enter the blood pool to comprehend the slaughter domain, you still have to be careful. Because even if you succeed in comprehending the slaughter domain that you have formed will backfire at any time. However, the slaughter domain is incomparably powerful. Among the countless domains, the slaughter domain is considered the strongest. Since things had come to this point, Longao naturally wouldn't back down. Once he had decided on something, he wouldn't regret it. P.S. Everything has been delivered. Go and rest immediately. I'll sleep in tomorrow morning. However, Little Nine will try to wake up early. It's very tiring to write a story and it's not something that can be written casually. Sometimes, it takes 3 to 4 hours to write a chapter. Good night everyone. Chapter 900. Next. Long Fu told Longao what to do in detail. Inside the dragon seal space. In front of the huge blood pool, Longao's face was very serious. Although he knew that with the help of the dragon seal, the blood pool would not backfire on him, Longao was still a little worried. Master, have you really thought it through? Longao nodded. Things had already reached this point. Longao knew that he would not choose to retreat. Plop. At the same time that the blood splashed, Longao had already jumped down and instantly disappeared without a trace. In the blood pool, Longao's body was submerged in blood, but it was not as difficult to breathe as expected. Perhaps this was the uniqueness of the blood pool. Longao knew very well that if other people entered the blood pool, there would only be 2 outcomes. They would either be turned into a puppet by the blood pool, or be devoured by the blood pool and die. After a short while, Longao had already sunk to the bottom of the blood pool. He sat quietly at the bottom of the blood pool and began to cultivate the devouring firmament technique. Using his body as a guide, he continued to devour the killing aura in the blood pool. According to Long Fu, his main purpose of entering the blood pool was to absorb the killing aura. Under normal circumstances, it was almost impossible for him to break through to the Great Emperor realm from the Middle Sacred Master realm in just 2 months. Therefore, he had to continuously absorb the killing aura. By using the killing aura to forcefully break through, he could use the killing aura to comprehend himself and form the slaughter domain. Then, he could successfully become a Great Emperor realm martial artist. In just 2 hours, the blood pool around Longao began to churn, and the formless killing aura began to enter his body. Just like that, Longao closed his eyes and quietly absorbed it. Time passed bit by bit. The Sky Martial Forest was filled with the light of swords and the smell of blood. As the end of the Martial Arts Alliance tournament approached, those who did not obtain a flag began to go crazy. They killed each other crazily and plundered crazily. Everyone wanted to obtain a flag to enter the Martial Artists Alliance. Over 100 flags were found, but only a few people were able to successfully bring them out. He did some preliminary calculations. There were hundreds of thousands of people who had entered the Tianwu Forest to participate in the alliance competition. But in the end, the number of people who had managed to walk out, whether they had obtained a flag or not, was probably less than 10%. That was how cruel the competition was. The Martial Artists Alliance was 100% aware of this. However, the Martial Artists Alliance still insisted on doing so. The reason was simple. The Martial Artists Alliance believed that although they had suffered a great loss in this competition, the survival of the fittest was still the absolute principle. In such a cruel competition, those who could survive and obtain the flag were definitely the best of the best. In the eyes of the Martial Artists Alliance, only such people were qualified to join the Martial Artists Alliance. Heavenly Sect. After failing to lock onto Longao, Yang Yu had returned to the Clear Sky Sect. Under normal circumstances, Yang Yu should not have returned to the sect before finding Longao. The reason was simple. The deity-slaying sword had not been found yet. Would Yang Yu give up so easily? In the main hall of the Clear Sky Sect, Yang Dingtian was extremely surprised when he received the news of the old ancestor's return. Based on the old ancestor's strength and how he had absorbed the blood pool, Yang Dingtian believed that it was impossible for a mere Longao to escape from the old ancestor. But in the end, as soon as he stepped into the main hall, Yang Dingtian's face turned cold. He looked at the old ancestor in fear. It turned out that at this moment, Yang Yu's entire body was emitting an intense murderous aura. The gloomy aura enveloped the entire hall. Yang Dingtian didn't know why, but he had a feeling that as long as he moved, he would be mercilessly obliterated. After a while, Zhao Yu also stepped into the main hall. In the entire Clear Sky Sect, other than Yang Yu, the Master Yang Dingtian and Elder Zhao Yu had reached the Saint Emperor realm. Master, what happened? Damn, how would I know? Even Yang Dingtian wanted to know what had happened. With a gloomy face, Yang Dingtian and Zhao Yu did not dare to act rashly. The old ancestor was motionless and stood at the head of the table. However, the killing aura emitted from his body was obviously targeted at them. Grandfather. Yang Dingtian waved his hand. Before Yang Dingtian could speak, Yang Yu, who had been silent, finally lifted her head and looked at the two of them. I am unable to lock onto Longao's position. At this moment, the two of them finally knew why the old ancestor's expression was so gloomy. It turned out that they had lost contact with Longao. It was no wonder. But Longao had taken away the sect's god-punishing sword. If they were unable to retrieve the god-punishing sword, it would undoubtedly be a huge blow to the sect. Let alone the old ancestor, even they were unable to accept this fact. Dingtian, Zhao Yu, I am going to assist the two of you to reach the Saint Emperor realm. Later on, the three of us will work together to lock onto Longao. No matter what happens, we have to retrieve the god-punishing sword. With regards to this point, neither Zhao Yu nor Yang Dingtian had the slightest objection. Not only did they not object, but they were also rather excited and surprised. After all, the gap between a Saint Emperor and a Saint Emperor was something that the two of them clearly knew. Old ancestor, what should we do? The two of them knew that it wasn't an easy task to quickly break through from Saint Emperor to Saint Emperor realm. They were very curious as they didn't know what the old ancestor wanted to do. However, the two of them knew that since the old ancestor had spoken, it meant that she had absolute confidence. Zhao Yu, Dingtian, I have already offered myself to Master. Therefore, the two of you have to offer yourselves as well. Believe in Master. He will allow your cultivation to quickly break through to the Saint Emperor realm or even the Supreme Dao realm. Master. At this moment, both Zhao Yu and Yang Dingtian were completely confused by Yang Yu's words. They didn't know who the old ancestor's master was. However, the two of them weren't fools. Since this person was able to become the old ancestor's master and make the old ancestor so obedient, they believed that this person wasn't an ordinary person. Grandfather, can I ask who exactly is this master that you are talking about? With a cold snort, Yang Yu's body suddenly exploded with a terrifying aura. She immediately suppressed the two of them. Zhao Yu and Yang Dingtian were so frightened that they knelt on the ground while trembling with fear. The two of them looked at each other and saw a trace of fear in each other's eyes because they realized that the old ancestor seemed to be a little off. It was as though she had changed into another person. Grandfather, I know my mistake. Don't think that you can simply ask questions just because you are my grandson. Do you understand? Chapter 901. Zhao Yu and Yang Dingtian were trembling with fear. They were afraid that the old ancestor would kill them. Until now, the two of them still had no idea what happened to the old ancestor. Follow me. Not daring to refuse, Zhao Yu and Yang Dingtian followed Yang Yu out of the hall with fear and trepidation. Outside the Sky Martial Forest. Today was the official end of the Martial Arts Alliance tournament. Almost all of the flags had been brought out. In this Martial Arts Alliance tournament, almost 90% of the participants had died, which meant that out of the tens of thousands of people who entered the Sky Martial Forest, only a few thousand would come out alive. This ratio was extremely tragic. There were still 6 hours before the Martial Arts Alliance tournament officially ended. At that time, no matter who it was, even if they brought out the flag, they would be disqualified. Lu Tianxi stood there coldly. His face was extremely gloomy and ugly. He really couldn't stand the humiliation of having one of his arms broken. Brother Lu, the black wolf you mentioned hasn't come out yet. Are you sure he killed someone and took the flag? Wen Cheng was the person in charge of the Martial Arts Alliance tournament. This meant that Wen Cheng had the final say in this Martial Arts Alliance tournament. Wen Cheng was a good person. He knew what kind of person Lu Tianxi was. If it wasn't for Lu Tianxi's strength, he wouldn't have bothered with him. Big brother Wen, I am certain that Hei Lang has definitely killed the others and snatched the flag from them. Wen Cheng nodded and didn't say anything else. After all, this was a serious matter. If it wasn't resolved, he would be in big trouble if this matter was leaked out. The two of them didn't say anything as they waited for the Black Wolf. Lu Tianxi wasn't sure if the Black Wolf had gotten the flag. If the Black Wolf had gotten it, he would be in big trouble. Until now, Lu Tianxi still couldn't figure out how the Black Wolf had done it. After all, the gap between them was so big that they weren't even on the same level. Brother Wen, the Black Wolf is here. At this moment, a blood-red-haired youth slowly walked out of the Sky Martial Forest. He was emitting a cold aura. Before he arrived, his killing intent was already there. What a heavy massacre. Sensing the killing intent emanating from the youth, Wen Cheng's expression changed slightly. Not long after, Longao arrived in front of Wen Cheng. Without wasting any time, Longao took out the command flag and handed it over. Peak Saint Emperor. Initially, Zhongxian had thought that he would be able to comprehend his own body and achieve a breakthrough to Martial Monarch after absorbing the slaughter in the blood reservoir. However, Longao had never thought that after absorbing the slaughter for 2 whole months, he would still not be able to comprehend his own body. However, he had advanced from a mid-holy venerate to a peak holy emperor. In just 2 short months, Xiao Chen had broken through from holy venerate to peak holy emperor. If people knew about this cultivation speed, it would cause a commotion. Are you Black Wolf? Nodding, Longao replied, that's right. According to Long Fu, Zhongxian had not been able to comprehend his own body this time. Perhaps it was because of his own limitations. Even if he continued to stay in the blood reservoir, he might not be able to comprehend his own body. Longao knew very well that if he continued to stay in the blood reservoir and absorb the slaughter, even if he could not comprehend his own body, he believed that it would be of great help to his cultivation. However, time waits for no one. The day of the Martial Artists Alliance competition had arrived. If he did not go out, it would be considered as him forfeiting the competition. At that time, he would not be able to enter the Martial Artists Alliance, let alone see Yu Yin. After breaking through to Great Emperor and seeing Yu Yin, Longao would undoubtedly choose the latter over the former. Black Wolf, Lu Tianxi said that you killed the other members of the Martial Artists Alliance to steal the command flag. Let me ask you, is this true? Looking at Lu Tianxi, who was beside Wen Cheng, Longao sneered. He was not surprised at all. Lu Tianxi's arm had been broken by him. Moreover, he had a grudge against Lu Yun and Lu Fei. It would be strange if Lu Tianxi did not seek revenge. Senior Wen, I want to ask, are you a righteous person? Wen Cheng was not a fool. Of course, he knew what Lu Tianxi meant. He smiled and nodded. I will not side with anyone. Hearing this, Lu Tianxi's face darkened. He did not know whether Black Wolf had done it or not. However, things had already come to this point. Whether Black Wolf had done it or not, he had to do it. Lu Tianxi's intention was simple. He wanted to borrow the power of the Martial Artists Alliance to kill Longao. Senior Wen, I believe that you already know about the grudge between Lu Tianxi and me. Nodding, Wen Cheng did not say anything. However, His intention was clear. When Lu Yun and Lu Fei plotted to kill me, I was only protecting myself. However, Lu Tianxi indiscriminately tried to kill me. What's wrong with me resisting? Wen Cheng still did not say anything. No one knew what he meant. That's why Lu Tianxi tried to frame me. I can only tell Senior Wen that I did not do it. *T. Do you dare to say that you did not do it? Lu Tianxi scolded fiercely. Then, he turned around and looked at Wen Cheng. He continued, Brother Wen, I can guarantee with my life that the flag in Black Wolf's hand is definitely. Waving his hand, Wen Cheng stopped Lu Tianxi before he could finish his words. Lu Tianxi, I don't care about the grudge between you and Black Wolf. As the person in charge of the Martial Artists Alliance tournament, I only have one task, and that is to find outstanding disciples for the Alliance. Something was wrong. Lu Tianxi was not a fool. He could certainly tell that something was wrong from Wen Cheng's words. However, since Wen Cheng had already said so, what else could he say? Black Wolf, I'll tell you the same thing. I don't care about the grudge between you and Lu Tianxi. As for what you said just now, I believe you. Now that you have brought the flag out, I can tell you clearly that you have successfully passed the Martial Artists Alliance. From now on, you are a member of the Martial Artists Alliance. Longao was immediately overjoyed in his heart, but his expression was very calm as he said, Thank you, Senior Wen. Longao knew very well that Wen Cheng was obviously helping him. Although he did not know why Wen Cheng wanted to help him, it was still a good thing. Because of this, he could smoothly enter the Martial Artists Alliance and meet Yu Yin. Senior Wen, when can I enter the Martial Artists Alliance? Wen Cheng seemed to be able to understand Black Wolf's feelings. No matter what, the Martial Artists Alliance was one of the 10 tripod forces. Its strength and foundation were there for all to see. It was a place that every martial artist dreamed of. Wen Cheng nodded and said with a smile, You are already a disciple of the Martial Artists Alliance. You can go to the Martial Artists Alliance at any time. P.S. I am looking for a house today. The house I am living in is not available. Today's chapter will not be completed. Tomorrow, there will be 5 chapters. Chapter 902. Then, Longao received a Martial Artists Alliance token. According to Wen Cheng, as long as he had this token, he could enter the Martial Artists Alliance at any time. His heart was simply excited to the extreme. While he was excited, Longao was also somewhat serious. No matter what, he was about to go to the Martial Artists Alliance, one of the 10 forces. Whether it was strength or background, they were the strongest existence in the Tianwu continent. Moreover, there was still the threat of Lu Tianxi. Senior Wen, I will go to the Martial Artists Alliance later. I will take my leave first. Okay. From the beginning to the end, Longao ignored Lu Tianxi, which made Lu Tianxi extremely angry. Looking at the figure that was gradually disappearing, Lu Tianxi said unhappily, Big Brother Wen, although we are not friends, we belong to the Martial Artists Alliance. Even if this person did not do it, he still killed the 4 elders of Blackwater City and my 2 nephews. Let him go now. Waving his hand, Wen Cheng was already getting impatient before Lu Tianxi could finish his words. Lu Tianxi, I believe you know better than me what you mean. Lu Tianxi's face became even more gloomy. I will not pursue the matter of Lu Yun and Lu Fei murdering their fellow disciples. As for this person's talent, I believe the Martial Artists Alliance will appreciate it. Big Brother Wen, what do you mean? If you want to deal with him, wait until you enter the Martial Artists Alliance. However, Wen Cheng did not finish his sentence, but the meaning of his words was very clear. One had to know that Longao had already won the Alliance tournament. As long as he arrived at the Martial Artists Alliance, he would be able to enter the Martial Artists Alliance smoothly. This was without a doubt. But what about Lu Tianxi? Although Lu Tianxi was a Crimson Great Emperor, he was not a member of the Martial Artists Alliance. Instead, he was in charge of a branch of the Martial Artists Alliance. If he wanted to enter the Martial Artists Alliance, he would have to find connections. Looking at the figure that had already disappeared, Lu Tianxi raised his eyebrows and said to himself coldly, Black Wolf, Don't think you can rest easy after entering the Martial Artists Alliance. I will definitely make you regret it. He. Longao had successfully obtained the token and could enter the Martial Artists Alliance anytime. However, Longao did not. Longao, in the end, chose to enter the Sky Martial Forest to continue to train. After thinking about it, Longao was very clear that even if he entered the Martial Artists Alliance now, with his current strength, what could he do when he met Yu Yin? If his cultivation could reach the Great Emperor realm, then he would have a way to protect himself. Because of this, Longao was prepared to reach the Great Emperor realm first, then enter the Martial Artists Alliance to find Yu Yin. Sky Martial Forest. Longao's figure constantly moved through the dense forest. No matter what kind of spiritual beast he encountered, as long as it was not above the Great Emperor realm, he could almost kill it instantly. He stood quietly on a huge rock. Longao looked around coldly. Ever since he entered the blood pool and absorbed the slaughter blood, Longao's aura had unknowingly undergone a tremendous change. He was very clear that if it were not for the dragon seal and Long Fu's help, he would have been devoured by the blood pool and become its puppet. Even so, Longao was more or less affected when he entered the blood pool. Because of this, he was very clear that this was not the way to go. However, he had no other choice. Entering the blood pool, absorbing the slaughter, and using the slaughter to comprehend oneself was the fastest way to raise one's cultivation. Master, if you want to improve your strength quickly, fighting against low-level spiritual beasts is not enough for you. Long Fu, you just said that Great Emperor spiritual beasts and Great Emperor warriors have their own realms. Can I defeat Great Emperor spiritual beasts in the realms? Longao was very wary of the realms. The 10 realms of Great Emperors were divided into red-level Great Emperor, orange-level Great Emperor, yellow-level Great Emperor, green-level Great Emperor, cyan-level Great Emperor, blue-level Great Emperor, purple-level Great Emperor, black-level Great Emperor, white-level Great Emperor, and gold-level Great Emperor. Correspondingly, the realm power of the 10 realms of Great Emperor was also divided into 10 levels. They were Level 1 realm power, Level 2 realm power, Level 3 realm power, Level 4 realm power, Level 5 realm power, Level 6 realm power, Level 7 realm power, Level 8 realm power, Level 9 realm power, and Level 10 realm power. The higher the realm, the stronger the realm. According to Long Fu, it did not mean that a Level 2 realm could suppress a Level 1 realm. It could be said that once Longao comprehended himself through the Slaughter realm and formed the Slaughter realm, then even if he fought against an Orange Great Emperor, Longao's Level 1 Slaughter realm might not be weaker than a Level 2 realm. Master, I have also considered this problem. Whether it is Great Emperor warriors or Great Emperor spiritual beasts, the realm is indeed troublesome. Longao did not speak because he knew that since Long Fu said so, there must be a way. Master, if you comprehend yourself under normal circumstances, no one knows when you will succeed. Long Fu, if you have something to say, just say it. Nodding, Long Fu said directly, Master, as long as you continue to challenge Great Emperor warriors, comprehend their realms, and comprehend the Slaughter realm, you might be able to comprehend yourself through the Slaughter realm and form your own realm sooner. I see. As for Long Fu's meaning, Longao already knew Longao's meaning. Using someone else's realm to comprehend his own Slaughter realm, although it was very dangerous, there was no opportunity without danger. Longao was never afraid of danger. Longao's body disappeared from the spot. His previous injuries had been completely healed, and his cultivation had broken through to the peak of the Saint Emperor realm. At this moment, Longao's strength had almost doubled. Even if he fought against a martial artist of the same level, it would only take 10 moves. Longao was not interested in spiritual beasts below the Great Emperor realm. Just as Long Fu said, no matter how many spiritual beasts he fought, the final result would be the same. The Crimson Great Emperor spiritual beast, Earth Dragon. The Earth Dragon was not a real dragon, but it was the closest spiritual beast to a giant dragon. Its bloodline was even stronger than the 9-headed snake. One could imagine how powerful the Earth Dragon was. Longao had already discovered the Earth Dragon. He was hesitating whether to start the battle or not. After thinking about it, he finally decided to start with the Earth Dragon. The reason was simple. Among the Crimson Great Emperor spiritual beasts, the Earth Dragon was definitely the strongest existence. Such a super existence would be very helpful for him to comprehend himself. However, Longao did not act rashly. He was very clear that the Earth Dragon was too powerful. Even if he was confident, he would be torn apart by the Earth Dragon if he was not careful. Just like that, Longao stood guard outside, staring at the sleeping Earth Dragon, waiting for an opportunity. Chapter 903. The Earth Dragon had been sleeping soundly and didn't realize that someone was plotting against him. Not far away, Longao stared at the Earth Dragon and adjusted his strength with all his might. He would have to fight sooner or later. It was better to fight sooner rather than later. At this moment, Longao used spatial teleportation and disappeared from where he was. In the next second, Longao's body had already silently appeared on the left side of the Earth Dragon. His right fist had already smashed out. However, at this moment, the earthen dragon that was sleeping soundly opened its eyes and stared coldly at the young man in front of it. At the same time, the earthen dragon let out a fake dragon roar and its huge body shot out. Longao was shocked. He didn't expect the Earth Dragon to wake up so suddenly as if it had noticed him. He didn't dare to be careless. No matter what, the opponent was still a Crimson Great Emperor. Longao dodged in time and slashed with his sword. The sword chi of dragon's roar shot out like lightning. When the dragon roar was heard, the angry Earth Dragon shuddered. As a branch of the giant dragon clan, the Earth Dragon was very afraid of giant dragons, even if it was just a dragon's roar. Because of this, the Earth Dragon couldn't understand why a human would suddenly release a dragon's roar. What happened? However, the Earth Dragon didn't show any mercy. Its huge body covered the sky. Longao didn't dare to fight the Earth Dragon head-on. The Earth Dragon was the representative of the Earth Elemental in the 5 elements. Its Earth Elemental power was very strong. No matter how strong its attack was, its physical defense was very strong. Regarding the Earth Dragon, Longao more or less had some understanding. There was only one way to defeat the Earth Dragon. That was to break through the Earth Dragon's physical defense. Otherwise, it was almost impossible to defeat the Earth Dragon. This was the power of a domain. The Earth Dragon emitted a terrifying power. Longao wasn't unfamiliar with this power because he had felt this power countless times from other great emperors. Longao didn't know this in the past, but now that he knew, he finally understood the true terror of a domain. This time, Longao came to fight the Earth Dragon with a purpose, not to fight. If that was the case, it would be very troublesome. Previously, when he entered the blood pool, he had already absorbed a large amount of slaughter chi. Longao directly released all of it. According to Long Fu, the reason he battled the Earth Dragon this time was to fight with slaughter chi in order to comprehend himself. In just a few minutes, the Earthen Dragon and Longao had already fought for more than 10 rounds. Gravity space. Longao naturally knew that the power of the Earth Dragon was the power of the Earth element. It was precisely because of this that other than constantly slaughtering in battle, he also used the Earth Elemental art in battle to continuously verify the Earth Elemental art. This had unimaginable benefits for the improvement of the Earth Elemental art. He forcefully forced the Earth Dragon away with a palm strike. Longao smiled. He had already done what he needed to do, there was no point in staying any longer. After a few minutes of the battle, Longao had already discovered one thing. Fighting with the Earth Dragon was simply impossible to verify the slaughter, let alone to comprehend oneself through the slaughter. Therefore, if he continued to stay, it would not only be useless, but it would also delay his time. Longao always wanted to enter the Martial Artists Alliance and see Yu Yin as soon as possible. However, his cultivation couldn't break through to the Great Emperor realm, let alone comprehend himself. With the help of spatial teleportation, Longao's body disappeared without a trace. However, the Earth Dragon didn't intend to let Longao go. It looked around coldly and quietly sensed the surrounding chi. Somewhere in the Sky Martial Forest. Longao sighed deeply. He had already stayed in the Sky Martial continent for 3 whole days, but he still couldn't comprehend himself. Was he going to have to stay here forever? Longao knew very well that every day he was late to the Martial Artists Alliance, Yu Yin would have more trouble. After all, there were too many people chasing after Yu Yin. If they really liked her, then it would be fine. However, the problem now was that 95% of them didn't really like Yu Yin, but Yu Yin's body constitution. According to Shapotian, Yu Yin's body constitution was 1 in a million. If he could obtain Yu Yin's body, then his cultivation would be much easier. This was what Longao was most afraid of. If I still can't break through, then there is only one way. It seems like I can only leave the Sky Martial Forest and go to the Martial Artists Alliance. After thinking for a while, Longao finally decided that if he still couldn't comprehend himself in 10 days, then he would have to leave the Sky Martial Forest and go to the Martial Artists Alliance, regardless of whether he could break through to the Emperor Realm or not. Big brother, I have a way to help you comprehend yourself and break through to the Emperor Realm. Longao, who was preparing to continue fighting the spiritual beasts, suddenly heard Long Chong's words. He immediately became happy and asked impatiently, Long Chong, what is the way? Longao was very curious. After all, even Long Fu couldn't help him break through to the Emperor Realm in the shortest time possible. Otherwise, he wouldn't continue to stay here and search for opportunities to comprehend himself. Big brother, when you entered the blood pool, you absorbed too much killing. Therefore, it seems difficult for you to comprehend yourself through killing. What did that mean? Longao became more and more curious. This was because Long Fu had told him about killing. But now, Long Chong told himself that Long Fu's method wouldn't work at all. Long Chong, what should I do? Longao didn't think too much about it. No matter which method it was, as long as he could break through to the Emperor Realm in the shortest time possible, he would consider anything. Moreover, Longao was 100% sure that Long Chong wouldn't harm him. Big brother, in fact, when you fight with other spirit beasts, especially great spirit beasts, you don't have to resort to killing. As long as you fight and let nature take its course, I believe that with Big Brother's talent and potential, you should be able to comprehend yourself in the shortest time possible. That's right. Master, I have also thought about what the little fella said. You have been fighting and killing for a period of time, but it doesn't have any effect. Why don't you follow the little fella's advice and see how effective it is? Since Long Fu had said so, it seemed like he had to give it a try. Longao was also very clear that other than this method, it seemed that he could not wait any longer. Previously, he had already set a time limit of 10 days. He hoped that within 10 days, he could successfully comprehend himself. Otherwise, he could only put his cultivation aside for now. The fastest way to comprehend oneself was through fighting. If he cultivated normally, Longao didn't know when he could break through. Therefore, he had to comprehend himself no matter what. Chapter 904. Battle for Battle. In the end, Longao chose Long Chong's method. From Longao's point of view, as long as he could comprehend himself and break through to the Great Emperor Realm in the shortest amount of time, he would do anything. Outside the Sky Martial Forest. Big brother, I'm sorry to trouble you this time. There were 4 people standing beside Lu Tianzi. One of them was an old man in his 50s or 60s. His face was full of dirt, and he looked like a beggar. He was a consecrator of the Martial Artists Alliance. Although he wasn't part of the Martial Artists Alliance, his status and identity were there no matter where he went. Mai Kai had been cultivating in seclusion for years. His cultivation had reached the peak of the yellow grade Great Emperor Realm, and he was about to break through to the green grade Great Emperor Realm. However, Lu Tianzi found Mai Kai at this time, hoping that this consecrator of the Martial Artists Alliance could help him take revenge. This time, Lu Tianzi not only invited Mai Kai, but also 3 Crimson Grade Great Emperors from the Martial Artists Alliance. In other words, Mai Kai was a Yellow Grade Great Emperor, and Lu Tianzi and the other 3 were Crimson Grade Great Emperors. 5 Great Emperors. Brother Lu, I owed you a favor in the past, and I'll return it to you this time. After this matter is settled, we'll call it even. He laughed bitterly in his heart. Lu Tianzi had always been reluctant to use this favor. If it wasn't for the fact that he had no other choice, he wouldn't have let my Kai off so easily. Big brother, although Black Wolf's cultivation isn't that great, but Lu Tianxi didn't know how to describe Black Wolf. After the battle, he was very clear about Black Wolf's abilities. Other than the spatial divine item, he seemed to have something else. As for the spatial divine item that Black Wolf had, Lu Tianxi naturally didn't want to tell my Kai. As the saying goes, every man for himself and the devil takes the hindmost. Brother Lu, as a great Emperor realm martial artist, you were almost killed by a mere Saint Emperor. You really, my Kai didn't continue. He thought for a while and continued, Brother Lu, I owed you a favor in the past, and I'll return it to you now. Let's go. Big brother, I can't confirm Black Wolf's location. The only thing I can say is that Black Wolf hasn't left Sky Martial Forest yet. Lu Tianxi was a bit helpless because the Heaven Martial Forest was too big. Not to mention him, even if it was a divine path martial artist, wanting to find a person in the boundless Heaven Martial Forest was simply too difficult. My Kai nodded. He seemed to be able to guess what Lu Tianxi was thinking. I have an idea. Hey! Hearing that my Kai had a way to determine Longao's location, Lu Tianxi was pleasantly surprised. Following that, the five of them entered the Sky Martial Forest and headed in a certain direction. After accepting Long Qiong's method, Longao no longer deliberately resorted to killing. In the following period of time, Longao found a Crimson Great Emperor level spirit beast and used all his skills and trump cards. He kept on fighting, hoping to comprehend his own body and break through to the Great Emperor realm. Boom! Longao, who was fighting the Fire Raven, was suddenly attacked. Longao was shocked and didn't dare to be careless. He threw a punch back and met the opponent's punch. Taking 3 steps back, Longao looked coldly at the 5 people in front of him, especially Lu Tianxi, who was standing in the middle. He didn't even need to ask to know what was going on. Lu Tianxi. Lu Tianxi didn't say anything, but my Kai said with interest, not bad, you can take a palm from a Crimson Great Emperor. Peak Saint Emperor. Not only my Kai, but Lu Tianxi was also surprised by Black Wolf's strength. According to Lu Tianxi, the person in front of them was only a Saint Emperor. But now, in just 10 days, he broke through from Saint Emperor to Peak Saint Emperor. Such talent and potential was a little scary. Both of them knew that with this person's talent and potential, it wouldn't take long for him to comprehend his own body and break through to the Great Emperor realm. If he really reached that step, it would be troublesome. Who are you? The person who wants your life. With just you. Hearing Longao's words, the 5 people laughed. Their faces were filled with disdain and contempt. The 5 of them all believed that the young man in front of them was just a clown. Black Wolf, do you really think you're invincible? Lu Tianxi, I didn't break your other arm back then. Looks like you still can't change your bad habits. Lu Tianxi was instantly enraged. However, my Kai was beside him, so it wasn't his turn to attack. Otherwise, if my Kai was unhappy, he might go for wool and come home shorn. My Kai nodded. Of course, he understood Lu Tianxi's intention. But my Kai still didn't say anything. My Kai seemed to be very interested in the person in front of him. He said, Black Wolf, I'm very curious. How did you defeat Lu Tianxi with the strength of a Saint Emperor? My Kai was very curious about this. Under normal circumstances, it was impossible for a Saint Emperor to defeat a Great Emperor, even if it was the weakest Crimson Great Emperor. After all, the difference between a Saint Emperor and a Great Emperor was too great. They weren't even on the same level. My Kai was almost certain that the person in front of him had a treasure or cultivated a special martial skill. Otherwise, it was impossible for Black Wolf to defeat Lu Tianxi with his strength. It wasn't difficult to kill Black Wolf, but my Kai really wanted to solve this mystery. If he could obtain a treasure or a martial skill, wouldn't he be able to kill enemies above his level? My Kai was very clear about his strength. Once he encountered a Green Great Emperor, only death would await him. Longao wasn't a fool. Of course, he knew what the other party meant. Shaking his head in disdain, Longao sneered and said, Lu Tianxi, you found a few cats and dogs just to take revenge. Moreover, You want to obtain the spatial divine tool in my hands. However, I can tell you that the spatial divine tool in my hands will be given to him. I will not give it to you. Let me advise you to give up on this idea. Spatial artifact. Hearing Black Wolf's words, Mai Kai and the other three were shocked. The four of them obviously knew what a spatial artifact meant. Mai Kai looked at Lu Tianxi. His meaning was clear. Lu Tianxi didn't mention anything about a spatial artifact when he introduced Black Wolf from the beginning. How could Lu Tianxi not know what Hei Lang was trying to say? However, he said indifferently, Hei Lang, there's no need for you to drive a wedge between us. I don't know if you have a spatial god artifact or not, but I do know one thing. You killed two of my nephews, so I have to avenge them. Is that so? Longao sneered and continued, since you don't want my spatial artifact, I'll give it to you. But you have to promise me one thing. How about it? Tell me. Big brother. Waving his hand, Mai Kai didn't give Lu Tianxi a chance to continue. He said unhappily, shut up. Chapter 905. Mai Kai was clearly very unhappy. Regardless of whether or not Hei Lang had a spatial artifact on him, Lu Tianxi's intention in not mentioning this was clear. Lu Tianxi was no fool. He understood Mai Kai's feelings. They were in big trouble now. My name is Mai Kai. Your name has nothing to do with me. If you want my spatial artifact, then agree to my request and I will give it to you. Otherwise, I will destroy it rather than let you get away with it. A spatial artifact. Mai Kai and the others would be lying if they said they weren't tempted. Now, Mai Kai knew why Black Wolf could injure Lu Tianxi when he was only a Saint Emperor. It should have something to do with this spatial artifact. After taking a quick look, Longao already knew what Mai Kai and the others were thinking. He sneered in his heart. I believe you have already guessed that I was able to injure Lu Tianxi with this spatial artifact. Longao took out the space-time wheel as he spoke. Longao was afraid of the space-time wheel. Back in the Clear Sky sect, he had used the space-time wheel to barely break through space and leave the sect. Because of this, Longao couldn't imagine how the space-time wheel could clearly break through space. According to Long Fu, the space-time wheel in his hand was no longer at its peak. It was hard to predict how powerful the space-time wheel would be at its peak. Mai Kai, Lu Tianxi, and the other three great emperors all had greedy expressions when they saw the spatial artifact in their opponent's hands. Especially Lu Tianxi. He knew that Black Wolf had almost killed him because of this spatial artifact. If he could get his hands on this spatial artifact, would he be able to fight yellow-grade Great Emperor Mai Kai? Longao raised his eyebrows when he saw that Mai Kai didn't speak. He said coldly, you don't want to accept it. Black Wolf, don't even think about using a spatial artifact to sow discord between my brother and me. I can tell you clearly, don't even think about it. Is that so? With Black Wolf's question, Lu Tianxi was unsure. As the saying goes, it's hard to know what's in a person's heart. He didn't know what Mai Kai was thinking. If Mai Kai really wanted to get the spatial artifact and deal with him, what should he do? Lu Tianxi knew very well that once Mai Kai turned against him, things would become very troublesome. Up until now, Lu Tianxi had not expected Black Wolf to make such a move. If he had known earlier, he would have told Mai Kai about the spatial artifact. He believed that things would not have come to this. Black Wolf, hand over the spatial artifact and I'll let you go. In the future, I won't ask about the grudge between you and Lu Tianxi. How about that? Mai Kai was a man of his word. Otherwise, he would not have come out for Black Wolf. After all, he had reached the most critical juncture. Hearing Mai Kai's words, Lu Tianxi heaved a long sigh of relief. Would Longao agree? If he agreed, he wouldn't be Longao. Mai Kai, I'll give you one last chance. Kill Lu Tianxi and I'll hand over the spatial artifact. No. As soon as Mai Kai's voice fell, a terrifying sword chi shot over, accompanied by a powerful dragon roar. It was Longao's sword chi of dragon roar. Originally, he thought that once he took out the spatial artifact, Mai Kai and Lu Tianxi would definitely turn against each other. At that time, it wouldn't be a problem for them to fight each other. But the result? Longao never expected that my Kai would not agree in the end. Since that was the case, he had to fight even if he didn't want to. This battle was unavoidable. Longao didn't like to be passive, so he chose to take the initiative to attack. When he sent out the sword chi, he teleported and disappeared on the spot. Disappeared? Seeing the figure disappear suddenly, the 5 people were shocked. Except for Lu Tianxi, because Lu Tianxi had seen Black Wolf's spatial artifact with his own eyes. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he would have found it hard to believe. This is the power of a spatial artifact. Lu Tianxi exclaimed. My Kai was also greedy, but because of Lu Tianxi, he could only kill Black Wolf first. As for whether he could get the spatial artifact, it would depend on his own luck. Lu Tianxi, we have known each other for so many years. Let's forget about this matter, but I hope that you can be more honest. Big brother, I was wrong. My Kai didn't continue speaking. He looked around coldly, quietly sensing the other party's aura. This kid's spatial artifact is very powerful, but I can lock onto his location. Next time, we must not let him escape. After the 5 people left, Longao appeared in another direction. Looking at the 5 people's disappearing figures, Longao's face was very solemn. Because until now, he still couldn't figure out how Lu Tianxi and the other great emperors found him. Sky Martial Forest was boundless. It was too difficult to find a person in Sky Martial Forest, but Lu Tianxi and the other great emperors seemed to be very simple. Could there be something fishy? Long Fu, how did the 5 of them do it? Master, if I'm not wrong, the 5 of them should have some sort of divine artifact or spiritual beast to be able to lock onto your location. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to do it. Nodding his head, Longao also had the same thought. However, he couldn't figure out whether the 5 of them had a spatial artifact or a spiritual beast with special power to lock onto his location. Although he couldn't be sure, Longao knew that no matter what it was, since the 5 of them could lock onto his location, this matter was really troublesome. The 5 of them were all great emperors, and my Kai was even a yellow-grade great emperor. Not to mention the 5 of them working together, even any one of them would be difficult for him to deal with. Since you've come to find me, then I'll play with you. The corner of Longao's mouth suddenly curved into a cold smile. Since Lu Tianxi and the other great emperors wanted to kill him, then he would stay and play with them. Longao's other intention was to borrow the strength of the 5 of them to comprehend himself, hoping to break through to the great emperor realm as soon as possible. After all, among the 5 of them, other than my Kai, the other 4 were all great emperors of the Crimson Grade. They were just perfect for him to train himself. Such a rare opportunity, of course Longao wouldn't choose to give it up. One by one. After thinking for a while, Longao still thought of a way to defeat them one by one, because he knew that it was almost impossible for him to fight the 5 of them alone. Even if it was a one-on-one situation, he had to be careful. If he wasn't careful, he would be consigned to eternal damnation, and the consequences would be unimaginable. Chapter 906. Within Tianwu Forest. Lu Tianxi and the other 4 had ugly expressions because they still hadn't found any traces of Black Wolf. Big brother, could it be that Black Wolf has already left Tianwu Forest? If Black Wolf could still leave, how could the 5 of them have any face left? I can say for sure that Black Wolf hasn't left Tianwu Forest yet. As my Kai spoke, he took out a small mouse from his arms. It was pure black, and its body was round and squarish, just like a small ball. Big brother, what kind of spiritual beast is this? My Kai shook his head and seemed to be very fond of the little mouse in his arms. I don't know. 3 years ago, I got this little thing by accident. After studying it for a while, I found out that as long as it sensed the aura, I can lock onto it. So that's how it is. Lu Tianxi finally knew why my Kai could lock onto Black Wolf in such a huge forest. It was all because of this little thing. Lu Tianxi's heart was filled with envy, jealousy, and hatred. But due to my Kai's strength, Lu Tianxi could only feel envy, jealousy, and hatred in his heart. HMPH, Black Wolf can forget about leaving Tianwu Forest. The little mouse squeaked as my Kai nodded his head continuously. Black Wolf is nearby. Is it nearby? Hearing Mai Kai's words, Lu Tianxi and the other three were shocked because they couldn't sense Black Wolf's aura. The four of them looked around, but they still couldn't find anything. The four of them shrugged their shoulders helplessly. It seemed that if they wanted to find Black Wolf, it would have to depend on the little guy's ability. Left. Just as Mai Kai finished speaking, Lu Tianxi and the other three had already shot out, but they couldn't find anything. Right. They still couldn't find anything. There was no trace of Black Wolf at all. You want to play hide and seek? Big brother, what should we do now? Lu Tianxi felt very helpless. He also felt very depressed. This was because He Lang was only a puny Saint Emperor. Even with his talent and potential, a Saint Emperor was still a Saint Emperor. Saint Emperors were just a joke before the five of them. But because of this joke, they were unable to determine the true location. I'll let go of the little guy now. Remember, other than dealing with Black Wolf, you must protect my little guy. If anything happens to him, I'll kill you. Nodding his head, Lu Tianxi heroically promised, don't worry, big brother. Even if we lose our lives, we won't let anything happen to the little guy. Mai Kai didn't hesitate any longer. Apart from returning Lu Tianxi's favor, he was also very interested in Black Wolf's spatial divine item. He couldn't wait to find the Black Wolf immediately. Squeak, 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 follow him. Big brother, you, nonsense. Mai Kai cursed. Ever since the matter of the spatial artifact had been exposed, Mai Kai's attitude towards Lu Tianxi had changed drastically. If it weren't for the fact that he owed Lu Tianxi a favor, Mai Kai would have left him long ago. How could Lu Tianxi not be aware of this? The moment Longao appeared, he had a strange feeling. It was as though his aura had been locked onto by someone. Seemed like it was the little mouse that had appeared in Mai Kai's hands. Longao had already asked Long Fu about it. But even Long Fu didn't know what sort of spirit beast this little mouse was. But for it to be able to lock onto his aura, that was incredible. That was indeed the case. Longao didn't dare to be careless. Immediately, he teleported and disappeared from where he was. The speed of the little mouse was even faster than most martial artists. In fact, even Lu Tianxi would have a hard time catching up to it. Within the dragon seal space, Long Fu, do you really not know what sort of spirit beast this little mouse is? Longao was surprised at the capabilities of this little guy. No matter what he did, even if he used the killing aura within his body to create a barrier around him, he still couldn't stop the little guy from locking onto him. If this were to carry on, he knew that he would definitely be locked onto by Lu Tianxi and the other four. Master, I can't sense it. But since this little guy can lock onto your aura, it's definitely not simple. Why don't you think of a way to subdue this little guy? Subdue this little guy. Nodding his head, Longao lowered his head to ponder Long Fu's suggestion. Now that Longao was in the dragon seal space, he wasn't afraid of being locked onto by the little mouse. What should he do to subdue this little guy? After leaving the dragon seal space, Longao purposely released his aura. With the help of teleportation, his speed soared to a whole new level. The little mouse's speed was extremely fast, and it was getting faster and faster. In other words, the little mouse's speed was as fast as Longao's. In the end, even Mai Kai and the other four lost track of the little mouse. Standing at a certain place in the sky martial forest, Mai Kai's face was gloomy to the extreme. It was as bitter as it could be. Until now, Mai Kai still couldn't figure out why he suddenly lost contact with the little guy. Could it be that it was discovered by other spiritual beasts? Impossible. Mai Kai was very confident in the little guy's speed. Not to mention him, even a titled Great Emperor might not be able to catch up with the little guy. Since that was the case, the little guy should still be locking onto the Black Wolf's location. Big brother, what should we do now? Wait and see. Let me sense the little guy's location first. The four of you spread out and search for it. Remember, you have a mark on your body. Once you find the little guy or the Black Wolf, inform me immediately. Don't act on your own. Otherwise, I won't show any mercy. Nodding their heads, Lu Tianxi and the other three weren't fools. Of course, they knew what Mai Kai meant. He was afraid that they would find the Black Wolf first and take away the spatial artifact on the Black Wolf. Lu Tianzi and the other three separated. However, they gathered again after a short while. It should be known that the three great emperors were invited by Lu Tianzi and had the best relationship with him. Otherwise, the three of them wouldn't have come to help Lu Tianzi. Big brother Lu, my Kai is too arrogant. He actually wants to take the spatial artifact on the Black Wolf for himself. What should we do? Are we just going to let him do that? My Kai was only a consecrator of the Martial Artists Alliance, while they were the managers of the Martial Artists Alliance's branch. Strictly speaking, the three of them had almost the same status as my Kai. Lu Tianzi shook his head bitterly and said helplessly, "My Kai is a good person. Otherwise, he would have done something to me just now. I don't ask for anything else now. As long as my Kai can help me kill the Black Wolf, I will give him the spatial artifact." One had to admit that Lu Tianzi was really shameless. It was as if the spatial artifact was his. If the Longao knew about this, he would probably laugh heartily. He had seen shameless people before, but he had never seen someone as shameless as Lu Tianzi. Lu Tianzi was shameless to the extreme. Chapter 907. Big Brother Lu, what should we do now? Since Lu Tianzi had already made his decision, the other three couldn't say much. Unless it was absolutely necessary, the three of them didn't want to provoke my Kai at all. It was still the same sentence. My Kai was a genuine yellow-grade Great Emperor, while they were only crimson-grade Great Emperors. The difference between the two parties was huge. They weren't even on the same level. The four of them knew very well that even if the four of them worked together, they wouldn't be my Kai's match. This was the difference between a crimson-grade Great Emperor and a yellow-grade Great Emperor. Longao and the little mouse shuttled through the dense forest. Longao knew very well that if it wasn't for his spatial teleportation, the little mouse would have caught up to him in an instant. Sudden braking. Just as the little mouse was chasing with all his might, Longao suddenly braked. "You've been chasing me for 2 hours. Shouldn't you take a break?" The little mouse seemed to be able to understand human language. It squeaked non-stop, but Longao couldn't understand it at all. "Long Chong, help me ask around." Longao could only understand Long Chong and Long Chong's language. As for the other spiritual beast's language, he really couldn't understand it. He could only rely on Long Chong. However, Longao didn't let Long Chong appear. No matter what, Long Chong was a giant dragon. If he scared the little mouse away, wouldn't he be in trouble? After a few minutes, "Big brother, someone gives the little mouse food every day. Therefore, he wants to help that person locate you." F***ck Longao cursed in his heart. He didn't expect the little fella to say this. As for the little fella's identity, Long Chong meant that even the little fella didn't know. "Long Chong, tell him that if he's willing to follow me, not only will he be able to eat every day, he'll also be able to eat delicious fish and meat." Long Chong didn't have the slightest intention. He quickly conveyed Longao's message to the little mouse. The little mouse lowered his head and pondered. No one knew what he was thinking. "Big brother, the little fella said that he felt an aura from your body. He wants to absorb this aura." Murderous aura? There was no need to guess. Longao was almost certain that the aura that the little fella was talking about was the murderous aura. Longao's words. Longao's name. In the dragon seal space. Beside the blood pool, the little mouse was constantly absorbing the killing aura that was constantly emitted from the blood pool, causing Longao to have no idea what was going on. Without waiting for Longao to react, he only heard a plop sound. The little mouse jumped directly into the blood pool. Regarding the horror of the blood pool, Longao had personally experienced it before. If the little fellow jumped into the blood pool, wouldn't he die without a doubt? Even if it didn't die, it would become a puppet of the blood pool. Just as Longao was about to save the little fella, he was stopped by Long Fu. "Long Fu, what's the meaning of this?" Longao couldn't figure out why Long Fu would stop him. Could it be that Long Fu wants the little mouse to die? That's not possible. It's not like Long Fu's character. Just what happened? At this moment, Long Fu's face was solemn. He had never been so solemn. Longao knew that this matter wasn't simple. He understood Long Fu very well. Long Fu wouldn't be like this for most things. The more Long Fu was like this, the more curious Longao was about the little mouse's identity. Could it be related to the blood pool? Master, although I'm not sure about this matter, it's not too far off. Long Fu, what happened? Longao was extremely depressed. Long Fu had never been like this before. But now, Long Fu seemed to have become another person. Master, I just sensed the little fella's body. It's very special and he likes the blood pool. If an ordinary person enters the blood pool, they would be refined by the blood pool immediately. But the little fella is different. Long Fu, what are you trying to say? Longao didn't know why, but he had a bad premonition. Could it be that his guess was right? Master, it seems like you've guessed it. That's right. I also guessed that this little mouse is the weapon spirit of the blood pool. Once it grows up, it will merge with the blood pool. At that time, even Long Yin and I may not be able to continue sealing the blood pool. Just as expected. Long Ao had already guessed it, but he was not sure. Now that Long Fu was doing the same, he was very clear in his heart that if nothing unexpected happened, this matter should be true. After all, the little guy ignored the blood pool and even entered the blood pool. Just this point alone was enough to explain a lot of problems. Long Fu, what do you want? Master, I've already thought about it. Back then, we found countless weapon spirits and killed them all to prevent them from merging with the blood pool. This way, Long Yin can continue to seal the blood pool. You want me to kill the little fella? Long Ao knew that if this matter was really as he and Long Fu had guessed, then even if he was reluctant, he had to cut the Gordian knot and kill the little fella. This way, he could prevent the little fella from merging with the blood pool. Long Ao deeply experienced the might of the blood pool. It was hard for him to imagine that once the blood pool broke the seal and left the dragon seal space, there would be no one in the world that could seal the blood pool. Because of this, Long Ao knew that no matter what happened, the blood pool could not break the seal and leave the dragon seal space. Therefore, the little mouse would die without a doubt. However, Long Fu shook his head and sighed, even if we kill the little fella now, the weapon spirit of the blood pool will still be reincarnated. If we can't find the reincarnated body of the weapon spirit, then we'll be in big trouble. Therefore, Master, there's a choice. See if you're willing. Long Ao did not speak. Since Long Fu had spoken in such a serious manner, it seemed like this matter was no small matter. Therefore, he did not immediately agree or reject. At the very least, he wanted to see what it was. Master, my intention is very simple. I want you to sign a contract with the little fella. At that time, even if the little fella grows up and merges with the blood pool, you should be able to control the blood pool. However, there's another result. You'll be devoured by the little fella and the blood pool and become their puppet, never to rise again. In an instant, Long Ao already understood the meaning of Long Fu's words. Rather than not knowing who the weapon spirit of the blood pool would reincarnate into next, it was better to grasp the present and hope that he would be able to control the blood pool. If that was the case, it would definitely be a good thing for him. However, Long Fu had already said that there was another result. If he was the slightest bit careless, he would be devoured by the little fella and the blood pool and become a puppet of the blood pool. Chapter 908. How should he choose? Long Ao knew very well that he was not a saint. Therefore, the safety of the world and the prosperity of the continent had nothing to do with him. But what about his family and friends? He knew that once the blood pool broke through the seal, the continent would be plunged into a bloodbath. Even his family and friends would not be spared. He let out a deep sigh. For himself, for his family, it seemed that he could only choose to control the blood pool. Master, I know you will agree, but I have to tell you one thing. No matter what, you have to be careful of the little guy, because no one knows when the blood spirit will awaken. How could Longao not know about this? In the following time, Longao jumped into the blood pool and began to merge with the little guy, which was the so-called contract. Just like that. His relationship with the blood spirit was equivalent to his relationship with Long Qiong and Long Ming. Unless there was a change in the blood pool, Longao was confident that the little guy would not betray him. After it was done, Longao did not know whether he should be happy or sad. No matter what, this was his choice. No matter what happened in the future, he would face it calmly. Hey, Master, what's wrong? Looking at Longao's flushed face, Long Fu asked curiously. Waving his hand, Longao did not say much. He left the dragon seal space and immediately used spatial teleportation to find traces of Lu Tianzi and the others. After signing the contract with the little guy and soaking in the blood pool for a while, Longao suddenly felt his blood boiling, as if something was about to jump out. Although he had never felt his own body and did not know what was going on, intuition told Longao that what he felt was the so-called feeling of feeling one's own body. However, that feeling disappeared in a flash. Because of this, Longao wanted to find a Crimson Great Emperor spiritual beast as soon as possible, or find Lu Tianzi and the others. In this way, he could feel his own body through battle and use this opportunity to break through the so-called Great Emperor realm. Longao was very clear that with his current situation, the opponent of the battle could not be too strong, nor could he be too weak. In other words, the Crimson Great Emperor was just right. Such was luck. If you didn't want to see a Crimson Great Emperor spirit beast, then you would encounter one. However, if you wanted to see a Crimson Great Emperor spirit beast, then you wouldn't be able to meet one even if you died. With no other choice, Longao could only choose Lu Tianzi's group of 5. Although he didn't find a suitable Crimson-class Great Emperor spirit beast, Longao felt that his luck wasn't bad, because when he found the 4 people, he found Lu Tianzi and the others attacking the Earth Dragon with all their might. 1 against 4. Although Tu Long was very powerful, it was almost impossible for him to defeat Lu Tianzi and the other 3 by himself. Longao was pleasantly surprised that Mai Kai was not around. Without any hesitation, he took a big stride forward and rushed out. This time, Longao didn't deliberately try to comprehend his body. Instead, he fought with the 4 Crimson Great Emperors. He hoped to borrow the pressure and suppression from the 4 Crimson Great Emperors to successfully break through to the Great Emperor realm. Catcher! Lu Tianzi and the other 3 worked together and killed the Earth Dragon. Just as they were about to divide the Earth Dragon, they suddenly saw Black Wolf appear. Not only were they not afraid, but they were also pleasantly surprised. Black Wolf, you actually dare to appear. You really don't want to enter the gates of heaven, but instead, you want to barge into the gates of hell. Nonsense. Longao hated this the most. Without any nonsense, he rushed out. When he was in mid-air, Longao suddenly disappeared. With the help of spatial teleportation, Longao's body appeared in front of the 4 people in an instant. Without any hesitation, he threw out a punch. Following that, the deity slaying sword in his hand also swung out. At the same time, a dragon's roar was heard, and sword chi swept out. The 4 people were shocked. They didn't expect Longao to be so powerful. However, in the eyes of the 4 people, including Lu Tianzi, they didn't put Longao in their eyes at all. In the blink of an eye, the 5 people were already engaged in a fierce battle. One could only see the 5 people's figures flying back and forth. Longao didn't use any of his trump cards. Just like this, Longao was constantly suppressed by the aura of the 4 people. Constantly suppressed. Longao gritted his teeth and persevered. Longao knew very well that as long as he could persevere, it wouldn't be a problem for him to break through to the Great Emperor realm. Kill. In the eyes of the 4 people, with their strength, killing Black Wolf would be a matter of minutes if they worked together. Even if the other party had a spatial divine tool, but what was the result? The 4 people couldn't figure out how the other party could persevere for so long. After all, the other party was only a peak Saint Emperor. As long as he didn't break through to the Great Emperor realm, he would be a joke in front of them. Hearing Lu Tianzi's words, the other 3 Crimson Great Emperors naturally knew what it meant if they couldn't deal with the other party. The more the 4 people gave it their all, the more surprised Longao was. With the Saint Desolation physique, as long as he was careful, it wouldn't be easy for the 4 of them to kill him. Longao was surrounded by the 4 Crimson Great Emperors from the 4 directions. 4 terrifying domains enveloped him at the same time, layer by layer, and the power wasn't as simple as 1 + 1. If it was an ordinary peak Saint Emperor, once he was surrounded by 4 Crimson Great Emperors, he wouldn't even be able to withstand one move. However, Longao was completely different. Longao hadn't used any of his trump cards yet. Otherwise, it would be a matter of minutes if he wanted to leave successfully. This was Longao. With the spatial teleportation and dragon seal space, it was simply too easy for him to leave or disappear in an instant. However, Longao didn't plan to leave at all. The reason was simple. He wanted to rely on the suppression of the 4 Crimson Great Emperors to comprehend his own body. Suppression produced an endless amount of pressure. Longao almost couldn't hold on anymore. After all, the combined power of the 4 Crimson Great Emperors was no small matter. If he wasn't careful, he would be consigned to eternal damnation. Even so, Longao still persevered and didn't give up at all. At this moment, Longao's face was filled with joy, but the 4 Great Emperors were extremely depressed. The 4 of them never thought that Black Wolf wouldn't be killed in the battle, and would instead comprehend his own body successfully. Of course, the 4 of them knew what it meant to comprehend his own body successfully. Once Black Wolf successfully comprehended his own body and broke through to the Great Emperor realm, they didn't dare to imagine what would happen at that time. "Kill him for me." Lu Tianzi was completely anxious. However, the 4 of them couldn't stop Black Wolf from breaking through under such circumstances. After all, Longao had been working hard to break through. Now, under the layers of suppression, success was just a matter of time. Chapter 909. The 4 of them could no longer stop Longao from comprehending his own body. It was a very strange feeling. Longao could clearly feel that his power was constantly transforming. His own body was transforming. If it was an ordinary warrior, it would take at least a few hours to comprehend his own body. However, Longao's situation was completely different. Previously in the blood pool, he had been constantly absorbing the aura of slaughter and fighting. The power in his body had already gathered to the extreme. Once he could comprehend his own body, his speed of comprehension would be much faster than ordinary warriors. In just a few minutes, he had already succeeded in comprehending his own body. Now that he had succeeded in comprehending his own body, the next step was very simple. Longao would use the power in his body as the foundation to form his own domain. When a Saint Emperor broke through to Great Emperor, there was a 100% chance that they would condense their own domain. Among all Saint Emperors, 90% of them would condense their own domain without any attribute. Once they condensed their own domain, their domain would be much stronger than warriors without an attribute domain. Before breaking through, Longao had already decided to condense his domain through slaughter. It was still the same sentence. With Longao's strength alone, even if he could comprehend his own body, it wouldn't be a matter of minutes to condense his own domain power. It would take at least 3 to 5 days, and at most 10 days to half a month. It was a very normal thing. However, the slaughter energy in Longao's body had already gathered to the extreme. Now that he had comprehended his own body, condensing his own slaughter domain would be a piece of cake. Black Wolf. Before Lu Tianzi could say anything, a terrifying slaughter energy suddenly exploded from Longao's body. It was the slaughter domain that he had just condensed. Lu Tianzi and the other 3 released their domains at the same time. The layers overlapped and the power was not to be underestimated. Even if Black Wolf had comprehended his own body and broken through to Great Emperor, the 4 of them still did not take him seriously. In their opinion, as long as Black Wolf did not use his spatial divine tool, he would definitely die. In their opinion, 1 against 5, Black Wolf would definitely lose. But what was the result? The slaughter domain released by Longao instantly covered the domains released by the 4 of them, suppressing them. One person suppressing 4 people. What kind of concept was this? At this moment, Lu Tianzi and the other three were shocked. They had never expected Black Wolf to be so powerful, even though he had just broken through to the Great Emperor realm. His territory was even stronger than a Grade 2 territory. If they hadn't experienced it for themselves, they wouldn't have believed it even if they were beaten to death. Slaughter Domain. Longao was pleasantly surprised. He had never thought that the massacre domain he had condensed would be so powerful. However, while Longao was pleasantly surprised, he was also extremely solemn. Previously, he had already discussed this matter with Long Fu. Although the massacre domain was incomparably powerful, there was always a hidden danger. Once the massacre domain counterattacked, the consequences would be unimaginable. However, Longao didn't continue to dwell on this issue. He only knew one thing, and that was that his slaughter domain could completely suppress the other party's domain. At this point, Longao was very clear that Lu Tianzi and the other three were definitely going to die. In other words, this matter couldn't be leaked out. Longao knew that Lu Tianzi and the other three were Crimson Great Emperors. Even if they weren't in the Martial Artists Alliance, their identities in the Martial Artists Alliance were definitely not simple. If the Martial Artists Alliance knew that he had killed the four of them, the Martial Artists Alliance would definitely turn against him. Longao borrowed the power of space teleportation. His body kept appearing and disappearing, changing unpredictably. With spatial teleportation and massacre domain, Longao was still suppressing the four of them even though he was fighting one against four. This was also the reason why the four of them were the most depressed. His cultivation had broken through from the Peak Saint Emperor realm to the Crimson Great Emperor realm. Longao had become a Great Emperor realm martial artist. Longao was the Great Emperor. Although Longao's cultivation hadn't broken through to the titled realm yet, at this rate, there was no doubt that once Longao broke through to the titled realm, he would be titled the Massacre Great Emperor. The god-slaying sword in his hand was already swung out violently. A dragon's roar resounded as terrifying sword chi was released continuously. Massacre, sword chi, and dragon's roar filled the air. One had to admit that after Longao's cultivation had broken through to the Great Emperor realm, his strength had increased by more than 10 times. When Longao was only a Saint Emperor, he could already severely injure Lu Tianzi. Now that he had broken through to the Great Emperor realm, the space around him started to tremble. Before the four of them could react, Longao's body suddenly appeared behind one of the Great Emperors. The god-slaying sword in his hand had already pierced out at an unbelievable angle. Puci. The sword chi of the dragon's roar landed on the Great Emperor's body. Without any suspense, the Crimson Great Emperor was instantly killed. His soul was absorbed into the dragon seal space. As for his corpse, it was turned into ashes. Killing a Crimson Great Emperor in one strike. Looking at their dead comrade, Lu Tianzi and the other two were extremely terrified. Until now, the three of them had never imagined that Black Wolf, who had just broken through to the Great Emperor realm, would have such terrifying strength. They didn't dare to continue fighting. Lu Tianzi and the other two didn't want to die here. However, would Longao let the four of them go? Longao used spatial teleportation to appear and disappear continuously. Under the absolute suppression of the massacre domain, he killed the remaining 2 Crimson Great Emperors with just 2 strikes. A total of 4 Crimson Great Emperors were killed in just a few minutes. In less than 10 rounds, there was only 1 Crimson Great Emperor left, the so-called Lu Tianzi. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't afraid. Lu Tianzi had never taken Black Wolf seriously. He thought that Black Wolf was only able to injure him with the help of Black Wolf's spatial divine item. But now, Lu Tianzi was extremely terrified. As for Black Wolf, he didn't care about anything else. Lu Tianzi only hoped to find Mai Kai as soon as possible. No matter what, Mai Kai was still a yellow-grade Great Emperor. Even if Black Wolf's cultivation had broken through and his strength had increased tremendously to the point where he could kill 3 Crimson Great Emperors, Black Wolf was only a joke in front of Mai Kai. However, Mai Kai was nowhere to be found. Was he really going to die here? Lu Tianzi was very unwilling. His opponent was only a small Saint Emperor, but in just a few days, not even a month, his cultivation had broken through from the Saint Emperor realm to the Great Emperor realm. Although he still couldn't believe it, the truth was the truth. No matter what, Black Wolf's cultivation had already broken through to the Great Emperor realm. Other than finding my Kai, there was no other way. Chapter 9-10. If it were under normal circumstances, Longao beheading Lu Tianzi was virtually an ironclad matter. But in the end, Lu Tianzi's luck was pretty good. He finally found Mai Kai at the critical moment. At this moment, Mai Kai's face was extremely gloomy. It wasn't because he was worried about Lu Tianzi's safety, but because he was worried about Little Mouse's whereabouts. Looking at Black Wolf who chased after Lu Tianzi, Mai Kai was in disbelief. He looked at Lu Tianzi, then looked at Black Wolf. In the end, Mai Kai couldn't help but ask, "Black Wolf, have you broken through to the Great Emperor realm? What does it have to do with you?" Arrogant. Longao had always been this arrogant. If it was the previous Longao, the two would definitely think that he didn't care about his life. But now that he had broken through to the Great Emperor realm, he had the right to be arrogant. Big brother, this kid's talent is too shocking. In just a few days, he has broken through to the Great Emperor realm. If this continues, not only me, but even you will be in big trouble in the future. Mai Kai didn't say anything. He stared at the young man in front of him. Of course, he knew what Lu Tianzi meant. Mai Kai was also very afraid of him. Black Wolf's talent was too terrifying. Just like what Lu Tianzi said, if this kid wasn't killed, there would be endless trouble in the future. Black Wolf, do you think you're my opponent? What do you think? Ha ha ha. Mai Kai suddenly laughed when he heard Black Wolf's words. It was as if he was watching a circus. 10 realms of Great Emperor realm. You've just broken through to the Crimson Great Emperor realm. Even with the suppression of the domain, you can only pray to the heavens if you want to leave this place. Mai Kai was very confident that even if the person in front of him had broken through, he wouldn't be his opponent at all. 10 realms of Great Emperor realm. Each realm had a huge difference in the domain. In other words, a level 2 domain would definitely suppress a level 1 domain. After all, Mai Kai didn't know how powerful Black Wolf's massacre domain was. Mai Kai was already a yellow grade Great Emperor, while Black Wolf had just broken through to the red grade Great Emperor realm. It was equivalent to a 3rd grade realm suppressing a 1st grade realm. Under normal circumstances, it was almost impossible for a red grade Great Emperor to win. Black Wolf. He waved his hand, not giving Mai Kai a chance to continue speaking. Longao chuckled. Mai Kai and Lu Tianzi didn't know what was going on. Black Wolf, it's fine if you're afraid. I can give you a chance. As long as you hand over the spatial artifact, I'll let you go. Idiot. Longao could not be bothered to speak with the other party. He summoned the blood spirit from the dragon seal space, which was also the so-called Little Mouse. As soon as Sanguis appeared, Mai Kai's expression changed abruptly as though he had guessed something. Black Wolf, you really don't know what's good for you. How dare you take my things? Your things. Longao sneered and said disdainfully, treasures belong to those who are capable. Who do you think you are? Mai Kai, don't think that you can ignore everything here just because you're a yellow grade Great Emperor. Why don't you fight with me? I'd like to see how you can defeat me. Looking at the confident young man, Mai Kai didn't know why, but he felt uncertain. In other words, the more confident Black Wolf was, the more he didn't dare to casually attack. Because until now, he still wasn't sure how many trump cards Black Wolf had. Under normal circumstances, even if Black Wolf had just broken through to the Great Emperor realm, it was impossible for him to fight against 4 people, kill 3 of them, and severely injure Lu Tianzi. He wouldn't believe that Black Wolf didn't have any trump cards. Black Wolf, you'll be joining the Martial Artists Alliance later. If I want to, I can kill you at any time. Do you believe me? Longao didn't say anything because he knew Mai Kai's position in the Martial Artists Alliance. Mai Kai was a yellow grade Great Emperor martial artist. If there were no accidents, My Kai would definitely bring trouble to him once he entered the martial artist alliance. Before My Kai could continue speaking, Longao's body suddenly disappeared. With the help of spatial teleportation, Longao's body instantly appeared in front of My Kai. Without any hesitation, he swung the god-slaying sword in his hand. Longao wasn't a fool. Of course, he knew the absolute suppression of a domain. Although he was confident in his massacre domain, he knew clearly that a level 3 domain would definitely suppress a level 1 domain. This was the difference between a yellow-grade Great Emperor and a red-grade Great Emperor. Because of this, Longao didn't use his so-called domain. If he knew that his domain would be suppressed, he would be seeking death if he continued to fight with his domain. At the same time, a dragon's roar sounded. The sword chi of dragon's roar overlapped. My Kai didn't expect Black Wolf to be so strong. He didn't dare to be careless. He dodged in time and dashed out. This time, Longao's real target wasn't My Kai, but Lu Tianxi. After swinging the sword chi of dragon's roar a few times, Longao's body instantly disappeared. When he reappeared in the next second, he was already standing behind Lu Tianxi. The corner of his mouth slowly curled up into a cold smile. Lu Tianxi, do you think you can leave Sky Martial Forest alive? Lu Tianxi, who was prepared to watch a good show, suddenly heard the voice behind him. He was shocked. He scrambled to the side and barely dodged Longao's sword chi of dragon's roar. But even so, Lu Tianxi still broke out in cold sweat. Longao didn't give Lu Tianxi any chance. With the help of spatial teleportation, his speed was almost completely faster than Lu Tianxi. This way, Lu Tianxi didn't have any advantage. My Kai knew that he was tricked when he realized that the opponent's target wasn't him. Luring the tiger away from the mountain. My Kai naturally wouldn't let Black Wolf kill Lu Tianxi. If Lu Tianxi was killed in front of him, where would his face go? If this matter was spread out, how would he survive in the underworld? My Kai shot towards Longao's direction with all his strength. But even if My Kai was a yellow-grade Great Emperor, he wasn't a match for Longao in terms of speed. Big brother, save me. Save your sister. My Kai cursed in his heart. He was depressed to the extreme. Originally, he wanted to exchange the favor. But in the end, not only did he fail to kill Black Wolf, he also lost a lot of face. Who did he offend? However, the only thing that surprised My Kai was that Black Wolf had a spatial divine tool on him. Moreover, he believed that Black Wolf was able to reach the Great Emperor realm so quickly because of spatial teleportation. Unknowingly, My Kai no longer cared about Lu Tianxi's life. He only cared about one thing, and that was how to obtain the spatial divine tool on Black Wolf. Chapter 9-11. My Kai's indifference made Lu Tianxi more and more dangerous. He could be killed by Longao's sword at any time. At this moment, Lu Tianxi was infuriated to the extreme. He cursed My Kai's 18 generations of ancestors. He had invited My Kai to deal with Black Wolf, but what was the result? Not only did My Kai not do it, he didn't care about Lu Tianxi's life. If he wasn't afraid of My Kai's strength, he would have attacked long ago. He didn't dare to relax at all. The current Lu Tianxi didn't have the slightest confidence to fight Black Wolf. It was laughable. Just a month ago, Longao was only a Saint Emperor. He could barely deal with Lu Tianxi. He didn't even dare to face him directly. But now, in just a month, Longao's strength had undergone an earth-shattering change. Even Lu Tianxi had to run for his life when he saw him. Fate really made fools of people. Black Wolf, that's enough. Longao didn't answer. He swung his sword. The sword chi of the dragon roar cut through the void and shot towards My Kai. At the same time, Longao teleported and disappeared without a trace. This time, Longao had completely disappeared. Only at this moment did Lu Tianxi truly breathe a sigh of relief. Being able to keep his life was truly a blessing in disguise. Are you all right? Lu Tianxi cursed in his heart. No matter how unhappy he was, Lu Tianxi didn't dare to say anything. After all, My Kai's strength was there for all to see. Moreover, he could offend anyone but My Kai. Otherwise, he would die without a doubt once Black Wolf attacked. I'm fine. My Kai's expression was very ugly. He didn't expect Black Wolf to be able to catch the little guy. If it was before, My Kai wouldn't have cared about Black Wolf at all. Killing him would be as easy as flipping his hand. But now, if it was an ordinary martial artist, even if they had broken through to the Crimson Great Emperor level, they would still be a joke in front of him. However, Black Wolf's situation was obviously different. My Kai knew very well that if he were to fight the Black Wolf head-on, even 10 Black Wolves would be no match for him. However, the problem now was that the Black Wolf had not fought him head-on since the beginning. Furthermore, the Black Wolf could teleport and disappear at any time. This was going to be troublesome. Not only did he fail to kill the Black Wolf, but the little guy was also captured by the other party. It could be said that he went for wool and came home shorn. Big brother, what should we do now? What should he do? My Kai was also asking himself what he should do now that things had come to this point. If Black Wolf didn't show up, there was nothing they could do. Even if Black Wolf did show up, the other party still had the spatial artifact. As long as he didn't choose to fight head-on, there was nothing they could do. Big brother, I've received reliable news that Black Wolf is preparing to enter the Martial Artists Alliance. I've also applied to join the Martial Artists Alliance later. Since we can't deal with him now, we'll just stay in the Martial Artists Alliance. Lu Tianzi made a throat-slitting gesture. My Kai wasn't a fool. Of course, he knew what Lu Tianzi meant. No matter how unwilling he was, the truth was right in front of him. There was nothing he could do. It seemed like he could only give up on dealing with Black Wolf for now and wait for him to enter the Martial Artists Alliance. Then, he would close the door and beat the dog. My Kai had absolute confidence in his position and influence in the Martial Artists Alliance. It seems like this is the only way. Lu Tianzi, this started because of you. If I can't get the little guy back, at this point, My Kai suddenly stopped. However, the meaning behind his words was clear. My Kai had already left without caring about Lu Tianzi's expression. It seemed like My Kai was really angry this time. However, after thinking about it, it made sense. As a yellow-grade Great Emperor, My Kai was toyed with by a little Black Wolf for half a day. In the end, the little guy was captured by the other party. It was a double loss. Sooner or later, I'll let you know how powerful I am. Seeing that My Kai had already left, Lu Tianzi didn't dare to stay any longer. After the two disappeared, Longao suddenly appeared. He didn't chase after them. Although his cultivation base had successfully broken through to the Great Emperor realm, Longao could clearly see that the gap between him and My Kai was still very big. Just the suppression of the domain alone made it impossible for him to be My Kai's opponent. Unless he had the massacre domain that could ignore the restrictions of the domain, he might be able to win. The massacre domain was already very powerful. It was almost impossible to ignore the suppression of the domain. Somewhat serious. This time, he didn't succeed in killing Lu Tianzi and My Kai. Longao knew that when he entered the Martial Artists Alliance later, he would definitely be hindered. At that time, he would be in a lot of trouble. Long Fu, is there any way for me to increase my cultivation base quickly? Longao's desire for strength had reached the extreme. He couldn't wait to become a supreme grade Great Emperor. Then, even if he entered the Martial Artists Alliance, his chances would be greatly increased. However, Long Fu shook his head. Seemingly helpless, Long Fu said, "Master, you're already too eager for quick success. This won't benefit your cultivation at all. If you continue like this, even if your cultivation base can quickly break through to the supreme grade Great Emperor realm, there will be a lot of trouble in the future." How could Longao not know about this? However, things had already reached this stage. Did he have a choice? The Martial Artists Alliance, as one of the top 10 forces, had strength and foundation. Even if he broke through to the supreme grade Great Emperor realm, what could he do? Longao could almost be sure that any expert from the Martial Artists Alliance could directly kill him. This was the foundation of a super force. Long Fu, I believe you should know about my situation. I urgently need strength now. If I can break through to the supreme grade Great Emperor realm, even if there are repercussions, I won't hesitate. For the people he loved, he wouldn't hesitate to climb a mountain of swords or plunge into a sea of fire, let alone repercussions. However, Long Fu shook his head. His meaning was very clear. Long Fu. Master, I know how you feel. I won't hide it from you. I can help you directly become a supreme grade Great Emperor realm warrior in the shortest time. However, in that case, you may not even be able to reach the supreme grade Great Emperor realm, let alone the peak of martial arts. So serious. However, Longao was also very surprised. He didn't expect that Long Fu really had a way to help him break through to the supreme grade Great Emperor realm. However, at the same time, he was also very depressed. Because according to Long Fu's meaning, he definitely wouldn't help him. What method should he use to make Long Fu help him break through to the supreme grade Great Emperor realm warrior in the shortest time possible? Long Fu, since you know my situation, I won't say much nonsense. I need strength. As for the consequences, I will bear them alone. Chapter 9:12. Long Fu sighed deeply. How could he not know about his master's character? If it was any other matter, Long Fu would definitely agree to it. But for this matter, Long Fu's attitude was extremely firm. Master, no matter what happens, I will not help you. I hope that Master can understand my difficulties. Staring at Long Fu, Longao could only choose to give up in the end. He also understood Long Fu's character. Since Long Fu was not willing to help him, he would definitely not help him. Master, you have successfully broken through to the Great Emperor realm, but the speed of the breakthrough is too fast. Moreover, with the after effects of the massacre, you have to stabilize your realm. Otherwise, you will be devoured by the massacre at any time. Nodding his head. Long Fu was also clear about this point that Longao was talking about. The speed of advancement was too fast and there was the threat of the massacre backlash. This was very troublesome. Longao actually did not care about this. In his opinion, whether it was the unstable realm or the threat of the massacre, it was not a problem. As long as he was careful, there should not be any problems. There was only one thing that Longao was truly afraid of, and that was the blood pool. He did not continue to dwell on this problem. It seemed that he could only rely on himself to break through. It was better to rely on oneself than on others. Longao had just left the dragon seal space when he saw a white light shoot out from the god-slaying sword. It was Bai Ling. Every time he saw Bai Ling, Longao's heart would inexplicably palpitate. Bai Ling, you are looking for me? For such a kind-hearted person, even Longao had to be gentle with his words. Even Longao was a little surprised. Nodding her head gently, Bai Ling said softly, "Young Master Long, I would like to ask you for a favor." "Go ahead." After thinking about it, Bai Ling seemed to have something that was hard to say. "Bai Ling, if you have anything to say, just say it. As long as I can do it, I will try my best to help you. Young Master Long, I believe you should also know that I've suffered very serious injuries. After so many years, I've been unable to recover. Furthermore, it's gradually worsening. I've heard from my sister that I'm afraid I'll completely disappear from this world in a year at most." Hearing Bai Ling's words, Longao was shocked. He did not know what had happened. Longao felt guilty towards Bai Ling. Furthermore, he did not want such a kind-hearted girl to disappear in vain. "Tell me what happened." Bai Ling shrugged helplessly and said in a gentle voice, "Please forgive me, young Master Long. My elder sister has already instructed me not to tell anyone about this." He sighed in his heart. Longao knew very well that Bai Ling could not resist Xiling. Longao did not ask any more questions. "Bai Ling, how do you want me to help you?" Longao had already decided that no matter what it was, as long as Bai Ling asked, he would agree no matter what. "Young Master Long, my injuries are quite serious. After so many years, I have found a way to recover. That is, I will become the Genling of the Godslayer sword. In this way, not only will my injuries be healed, but I will also be able to find my original body. Hearing Bai Ling's words, Longao was shocked. Of course, he knew what it meant to become the Genling of the Godslayer sword. The Godslayer sword and the blood pool were almost the same in strength. Longao was very worried. If Bai Ling became the Genling of the Godslayer sword, Bai Ling would be devoured by the Godslayer sword. If that was the case, wouldn't he be harming Bai Ling? Bai Ling, forgive me for being blunt. Since you want to find your original body, why did you devour your original body? Longao could not understand this point. Although according to Long Fu, Bai Ling and Zai Ling's strength had increased greatly by devouring their original bodies, it did not have many benefits for their own cultivation. Moreover, Bai Ling obviously wanted to find her original body again. Since that was the case, why did she have to do this? Young Master Long, it's not convenient for me to tell you the reason behind this. I hope you can agree to my request. Shrugging helplessly, Longao sighed and said, since you've already decided, you can do as you see fit. However, Bai Ling, I still want to remind you that once you choose the Godslayer sword as your original body, you will be devoured by the Godslayer sword at any time. Have you really made your decision? Longao was really unwilling to let Bai Ling enter the Godslayer sword. The reason was simple. The power and threat of the Godslayer sword was there for all to see. Even if Bai Ling was extremely powerful, he believed that she would not be able to withstand the Godslayer sword's devouring. It was better to be safe than sorry. What if Bai Ling was really devoured by the Godslayer sword? Longao had already decided that no matter what happened, he had to think of a way to bring Bai Ling out of the Godslayer sword. However, Longao was very clear that if Bai Ling had already made up her mind, then even if he was unwilling, he had to follow her wishes. Thank you, young Master Long. Longao was already clear about Bai Ling's decision. Since you've already made up your mind, then I won't say anything more. Young Master Long, I want to give you a piece of advice. You've been breaking through too quickly recently, and your realm is relatively unstable. If you don't quickly stabilize your realm, you'll be in big trouble. Nodding, Longao did not say anything. How could he not know what Bai Ling said? However, Longao did not have the slightest bit of regret. Since he had already made up his mind, then no matter what happened, he had to persevere. After taking a shortcut this time, his cultivation had already smoothly broken through to the Crimson Grade Great Emperor realm. Longao did not immediately leave the Sky Martial Forest and enter the so-called Martial Artists Alliance. Just like what Long Fu and Bai Ling had said, his cultivation had broken through too quickly, and his realm was not stable yet. Therefore, the most important thing now was to stabilize his Crimson Grade Great Emperor realm. Somewhere in the Sky Martial Forest, Longao sat quietly on a huge rock, suppressing the massacre domain that had entered his body. He was very clear that as long as he was careful, it would not be easy for the massacre blood pool to devour him. Long Fu, why can't I stabilize my realm? Longao was very depressed. Because under normal circumstances, even if his cultivation had broken through quickly, it would only take a few minutes for him to stabilize his realm. After all, he had the desolate saint physique. For him, there was no such thing as a bottleneck in cultivation. But now, no matter how hard he cultivated, he could not completely stabilize his Crimson Grade Great Emperor realm. If this was the case, he could be devoured by the massacre blood pool at any time and become a puppet of the massacre blood pool. Calculating the time, there were less than 3 days until the 10 days he had decided on. In other words, no matter what happened in 3 days, he would have to go to the Martial Artists Alliance. With Yu Yin's danger, every minute he delayed would increase her danger. Chapter 9:13. Master, I have thought of this as well, but the only explanation is the killing power of the blood pool. Regarding Long Fu's meaning, Longao also somewhat understood. It seemed like he was in big trouble. If his cultivation base was not stable, the killing power of the blood pool would take advantage of the situation and invade him. He was depressed. Now that things had come to this, he did not know what to do. Longao knew that if he wanted to completely stabilize his realm, it would not be possible to do so in a short period of time. But no matter what, he had successfully broken through to the Crimson Grade Great Emperor realm, which gave him an extra layer of protection. The illusionary divine stage and the Great Emperor realm were not on the same level. The difference between the two was like heaven and earth. 10 days later, Longao finally got up and left the Sky Martial Forest. He did not go anywhere else, but went straight to the Martial Artists Alliance. The Martial Artists Alliance was one of the 10 great powers. As the headquarters of the Martial Artists Alliance, the Emperor City could be said to be one of the 10 strongest cities in the Sky Martial continent. There were countless experts in the Emperor City. Not to mention ordinary people, even divine martial artists would not dare to be arrogant here. There was only one overlord in the Emperor City, and that was the Martial Artists Alliance. The Emperor City was surrounded by mountains on all sides, as if it was surrounded by mountains. But from afar, the Emperor City was surrounded by white clouds, as if the Emperor City was sitting on top of the clouds. The Emperor City was extremely prosperous, and there was an endless stream of people. Shops lined both sides of the street, and the afterglow of the setting sun faintly sprinkled on the red bricks and green tiles, or on the brightly colored pavilions, adding a bit of domineering grandeur to the flourishing imperial city in front of him. Longao walked for a full 10 days. Moreover, he didn't stop at all. Only then did he barely reach the imperial city. Inside the Emperor City, Longao observed the prosperity of the surroundings. Other than being shocked, he could not help but sigh. The Emperor City was too majestic and domineering. Just the size of the city was like a kingdom. There were countless streets, and all kinds of buildings dazzled one's eyes. It was truly worthy of being one of the 10 great cities of the Martial Heaven continent. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, it would have been hard to imagine that there was such a majestic city in this world. Longao was very clear that as the headquarters of the Martial Artists Alliance, one of the top 10 cities, there were as many strong warriors as there were clouds in the sky. Any random person who came out was probably a hidden expert or a disciple of a big family. Because of this, Longao did not want to cause any trouble. No matter what, the main reason he entered the imperial city this time was for Yu Yin. As for other matters, unless he had no other choice, he would avoid them as much as possible. In the royal city, there were 4 great clans. The 4 great clans were the Shangguan clan, Ning clan, Weijia clan, and Nangong clan. Within the imperial city, the Martial Artists Alliance was the absolute overlord. However, under normal circumstances, the Martial Artists Alliance would not interfere with the affairs of the imperial city. Everything was managed by the 4 great families. In other words, the 4 families were the errand boys of the Martial Artists Alliance. Even so, the strength of the 4 great families was not to be underestimated. After Longao entered the imperial city, he only strolled around for a while before he prepared to enter the Martial Artists Alliance. Since things had come to this point, he did not hesitate at all. For Yu Yin, even if he had to barge into the Martial Artists Alliance alone, so what? However, after thinking about it, Longao decided to wait first. At the very least, he wanted to figure out the situation first. First, he found a restaurant to have a meal. Then, Longao left the restaurant and continued to stroll around. He was prepared to inquire about the Martial Artists Alliance. The 1,000 Treasure Tower, the largest collection of treasures in the imperial city, was one of the products of the Martial Artists Alliance. With the status and strength of the 1,000 Treasure Tower, not to mention ordinary people, even the 4 great families did not dare to provoke the 1,000 Treasure Tower. It was Longao's first time seeing a treasure tower of this level. Now that he saw it, he naturally wanted to go in and take a look. Inside the 1,000 Treasure Tower. The 1,000 Treasure Tower was divided into 3 floors. The first floor was for ordinary treasures, the second floor was for powerful treasures, and as for the third floor, ordinary people could not go up at all. According to legends, the third floor of the 1,000 Treasure Tower contained divine weapons. Martial artists did not have any concept of gold coins. According to the currency rules set by the Tianwu continent, if they wanted to do business, they could only use the same crystal stones. Although crystal stones were useless, the use of crystal stones between martial artists was like the use of gold coins between ordinary people. Longao did not have a single crystal stone on him. No matter what, he had just entered the Tianwu continent. On the first floor, there were many people. Longao was in the crowd, looking at the treasures in front of him. The entire first floor of the treasure tower was filled with rows of glass cabinets. These so-called treasures were in the glass cabinets. Longao took a glance and found that there were more than 1,000 treasures on the first floor. 120,000 crystal stones. Although he did not have a single crystal stone on him, 120,000 crystal stones was a concept Longao was very clear in his heart. The treasures on the first floor were already so expensive. It was hard to imagine the price of the treasures on the second floor, especially the divine weapons on the third floor. Longao really wanted to go to the third floor. After all, there were so many divine weapons. Who knew if there would be something suitable for him? Feiya, let's go to the second floor. The third floor is a place for trash. Shangguan Jing said with a perverted smile. In his eyes, he did not put the people around him in his eyes. Shangguan Jing and Shangguan Feiya were both disciples of the Shangguan clan. As one of the 4 great clans, the Shangguan clan had a very high status in the imperial city. Therefore, when the crowd heard Shangguan Jing's words, even though they were furious, they didn't dare to say anything. An oval face, red phoenix eyes, willowy eyebrows, and a peerless figure gave people a very breathtaking feeling. As a little beauty of the imperial city, Shangguan Feiya's face was filled with disgust at this moment. Shangguan Jing was like a shadow following her around all day. Although she hated him in her heart, Shangguan Feiya could do nothing about it. Shangguan Jing's status in the Shangguan clan was different. No matter if it was Shangguan Jing's father or grandfather, they all had a very high status in the Shangguan clan. Shangguan Jing, can you stop bothering me? I just want to stroll around the first floor. Shangguan Jing sneered in his heart. Feiya, what do you like? Cousin will give it to you. Thank you, but no need. Shangguan Jing seemed to be a little angry after being rejected by Shangguan Feiya. He looked around and cursed, then kicked fiercely to the left. In this world, many things were so coincidental. Sometimes, you just had to believe it. Longao entered the imperial city to see Yu Yin. He did not want to cause any trouble. But what was the result? Shangguan Jing's kick didn't hit anyone but him. Chapter 9:14. Ordinary people wouldn't have dared to dodge. No matter what, Shangguan Jing's identity and strength were obvious. But Longao dodged. It didn't matter if he dodged, but it happened to provoke Shangguan Jing, who was in a rage. Damn you! How dare you dodge, you piece of trash! Longao, who was about to leave, heard the insults and slowly turned around. It was the same thing. The main purpose of entering the imperial city this time was to take Yu Yin away. Because of this, Longao had decided that as long as it wasn't a big deal, he would tolerate it. After all, he didn't want the Martial Artists Alliance to pay attention to him. But this was how it was. He didn't want to get into trouble, but there were always people who didn't know. Longao didn't want to get into trouble, but he wasn't afraid of it. As the saying goes, if people don't offend me, I won't offend them. If people want to offend me, I'll offend them. You kicked me. If I didn't move away, I would really be trash. But I see that you're not trash. Longao's insults scared everyone around. They didn't expect that someone would dare to offend Shangguan Jing. Was he a disciple of the other 3 big families? Or a disciple of the Martial Artists Alliance? Boy, you've got guts. Shangguan Jing wasn't angry at all. Instead, he looked at the young man who dared to insult him with interest. Shangguan Jing was almost sure that he had never seen this person before. As long as he wasn't a disciple of the 3 big families or the Martial Artists Alliance, he could choose to ignore him. I don't know who you are, but I hope you don't have such a bad mouth. Anyone here is 10 times or 100 times stronger than you. This piece of trash, that piece of trash, I think you're the worst. Longao already knew that the young man who kicked him was definitely not an ordinary person. After all, the way people looked at him was very different. Was he from the 4 big families? But things had already come to this point. Longao didn't flinch at all. Good, very good, very good. Just as Shangguan Jing was about to strike, Shangguan Fei stopped him. Fei, this person doesn't know the difference between life and death. I'll let him know that in the royal city, provoking the Shangguan clan is the same as provoking the king of hell. The Shangguan family? Hearing the young man's self-introduction, Longao was also surprised. As expected, this young man was from one of the 4 great clans of the royal city, the Shangguan clan. No wonder he was so arrogant. Shangguan Fei was disgusted to the extreme. She glared at him and said unhappily, "Let's go. I'll accompany you to the 2nd floor to take a look." He was overjoyed. Shangguan Jing didn't even continue to look for trouble. He said carefully, "Since you are so interested, I will accompany you to have a look. If you like something, I will give it to you." Before Shangguan Jing could finish her words, Shangguan Fei had already walked out and headed for the 2nd floor. When Shangguan Jing passed by Longao, he said in a low and gloomy voice, "Brat, I don't care who you are. Since you dared to provoke me, I will let you know what it means to live a life worse than death. Just you wait." Looking at the 2 figures gradually disappearing, Longao didn't take it to heart. Although he didn't want to get into trouble, he believed that the Martial Artists Alliance wouldn't do anything for a disciple of the Shangguan clan. Seeing that Longao didn't show any fear, the surrounding people all had different expressions. Some wanted to watch a good show, some were gloating, and some were sympathetic. "Long Fu, can you sense if there are any treasures here that are suitable for me? Or are they especially powerful?" Just from the appearance, it was impossible to tell if these treasures were powerful or not. Therefore, Longao could only ask for help from Long Fu. Since he had already come in, if there were any suitable treasures, he would try his best to get them. With the connection between Long Fu and Longao, outsiders couldn't sense it at all. Long Fu was silent for a while and said, "Master, the treasures on the 1st floor are almost useless. There are 2 more on the 2nd floor. As for the divine weapons on the 3rd floor, there are indeed very powerful ones, and, just say it. Master, I just sensed the entire Thousands Treasure Tower and found that among the many divine weapons on the 3rd floor, there is a very powerful one. If you can get it, it will be of great benefit to your stabilization of the realm." Hearing this, Longao was surprised and helpless. No matter what, this was the Thousands Treasure Tower, the territory of the Martial Artists Alliance. It was almost impossible to rob or steal here. Normally, it was very difficult to go up to the 3rd floor. The Thousands Treasure Tower had a clear rule that if one wanted to enter the 2nd or 3rd floor, he must have a membership card. He didn't even have a piece of crystal. How could he have a membership card? "Master, there are Supreme Dao warriors here." Supreme Dao warriors? Hearing Long Fu's words, Longao was shocked. Because he never thought that there would be a Supreme Dao warrior in a small Thousands Treasure Tower. Wasn't the Martial Artists Alliance making a fuss over nothing? But thinking about it, he was relieved. There were treasures everywhere in the Thousands Treasure Tower, and even divine weapons. Although the Imperial City was the base camp of the Martial Artists Alliance, there were accidents in everything. If something happened to the Thousands Treasure Tower, then the loss could be imagined. Not to mention, Supreme Dao warriors might be rare in other places, but in the Martial Artists Alliance, one of the 10 tripod, there were probably a lot of Supreme Dao warriors. Longao became more and more depressed because he knew very well that as long as he dared to do anything, he believed that the Supreme Dao warrior in the Thousands Treasure Tower would definitely make a move without hesitation. It seemed that he had to go up to the 3rd floor to take a look, but how to go up? Longao didn't immediately go to the Thousands Treasure Tower and thought of various ways. But after thinking about it, there was only one fastest and most direct way, and that was to spend 1 million crystal stones to buy a membership card. In this way, he could go up to the 3rd floor without any scruples. As for going up, That was a matter for later. 1 million crystal stones, for the 4 major families or some powerful warriors, was almost not a difficult thing. But for Longao, it was an astronomical figure. Longao was very worried about how to find 1 million crystal stones. Shangguan Jing? Thinking of the Shangguan clan disciple who just called him trash, Longao suddenly laughed. Thinking of this, Longao didn't continue to stay and got up to leave. Just leaving the Thousands Treasure Tower, Longao had already sensed that someone was following him. It seemed that he didn't need to find Shangguan Jing. Shangguan Jing definitely wanted to take revenge on him. If it was an ordinary person who was followed by the Shangguan clan disciple, he would have been scared to death. But Longao wasn't afraid at all. Instead, he was pleasantly surprised. In this way, his membership card was settled. Chapter 9:15. About 2 hours later. Outside the Thousand Treasure Tower. Fei, you go back first. I still have something to do. Shangguan Fei nodded. She hated her cousin to the extreme and wanted to leave immediately. Looking at her cousin who had disappeared, Shangguan Jing's face instantly darkened. Did you track him? Young master, we have found him. Very good. Let's go. As a disciple of the Shangguan clan, Shangguan Jing's talent and strength were not bad. At the age of 26, she had successfully reached the peak of the Saint Emperor realm. She was only one step away from officially becoming a great sovereign. Shangguan Jing was also a good-for-nothing disciple. She was also a vengeful person. In the imperial city, the Shangguan clan was one of the 4 masters. Who dared to provoke them normally? It was because of this that the other party dared to provoke her. They were simply courting death. Beside a garbage dump in the imperial city. Normally, there was almost no one around the garbage dump. Other than people who came to dump the garbage, there would be people who came to clean the garbage every once in a while. In other words, very few people would come to this place. Longao came to the garbage dump. He seemed to ignore the stench and stood there quietly, as if he was waiting for someone. Time passed by slowly. 2 hours later. You really have guts. You actually didn't leave the imperial city. Boy, I'm very curious. Are you waiting for me here? Shangguan Jing walked out unsteadily with her 4 subordinates. Among the 5, other than Shangguan Jing who was at the peak of the Saint Emperor realm, the other 4 were Saint Venerables. Their strength might not be considered much in the imperial city, but in other places, even in the Jojo continent, they were equivalent to peak existences. Shangguan Jing had full confidence in her family's position and strength in the imperial city. She could almost be sure that in the imperial city, other than the Martial Artists Alliance and the other 3 families, no one dared to provoke the Shangguan clan. Moreover, Shangguan Jing could also be sure that the young man in front of her was neither a disciple of the Martial Artists Alliance nor a disciple of the other 3 families. If so, why was this person so arrogant? Shangguan Jing couldn't figure out why the other party would stay in the imperial city and choose such a remote place. Could it be that he was really waiting for her? Longao smiled and said, Shangguan Jing, I want you to do me a favor. I hope you can agree. Shangguan Jing didn't say anything, but the look in her eyes and the expression on her face were very obvious. Was the other party's brain flooded with water? Or was he scared out of his wits? Shangguan Jing, I need a 10,000 Treasures Tower membership card. Ha ha ha, kid, is there something wrong with your head? When Shangguan Jing and the other 4 holy venerates heard that the other party actually wanted a membership card, they all started laughing maniacally. It was like the 5 of them had heard the funniest joke in the world. They had seen people who didn't care about their lives, but they had never seen such a reckless person. Are you unwilling to give it to me? Shangguan Jing didn't make a move immediately. Instead, she asked with interest, Kid, I really want to ask you, what gave you such arrogance? Could it be that you don't know who I am? Shangguan Jing really couldn't figure it out. Since the other party knew her identity, then he definitely knew her clan's position in the imperial city. Could it be that this person had nothing to fear? Longao hid his domain's aura, so the 5 of them couldn't sense it at all. In other words, from the beginning to the end, the 5 of them didn't think that the young man standing in front of them was a strong martial emperor. Shangguan Jing, the genius disciple of the Shangguan family. Since you know who I am, you still dare to act like this. I am really curious, who exactly are you? Although Shangguan Jing was a profligate disciple, she was not a fool. Since the other party was so confident, unless there was something wrong with his head, he definitely had nothing to fear. The calmer the other party appeared, the more uncertain she felt. No matter what, the Martial Artists Alliance was not the only hegemon of the Tianwu continent. There were also 9 other superpowers who formed the 10 Directions tripod and ruled the Tianwu continent together. 1 clan, 2 alliances, 3 schools, and 4 sects. They were the Long family, the Dan Alliance, the Martial Artists Alliance, the WN Shou sect, the Heaven and Earth sect, the 5 Elements sect, the Wanzhan school, the Sword sect, the Purple Thunder sect, and the Black Heaven sect. Shangguan Jing was very clear that even if the other party wasn't a disciple of the Martial Artists Alliance or the 3 great clans, if he was a disciple of one of the 9 superpowers, then things would be very troublesome. Although Shangguan Jing was one of the overlords of the imperial city, the Shangguan family was almost a joke in front of the 10 Directions tripod. It was common knowledge that any superpower that came out of the 10 Directions tripod could easily destroy the Shangguan clan. Because of this, Shangguan Jing didn't dare to act casually. If the other party was really a disciple of one of the 9 superpowers, then the Shangguan family would be in trouble. What should she do if she got into trouble? If she wanted to act, she had to confirm the other party's identity first. Longao found it funny. How could he not know about Shangguan Jing's fear? Shangguan Jing, who I am doesn't seem to have anything to do with you. I only want to ask you one thing. Will you give me the membership card of the 10,000 Treasures Tower? Longao's powerful aura was not something an ordinary person could pretend to be. The more Longao acted like this, the more Shangguan Jing didn't dare to act. After thinking for a while, she said, "Brat, a straightforward person doesn't do underhanded things. If you are still a man, then tell me your identity. Why do you have to be so sneaky? Since you want to know, then I don't need to hide it." Long family. Long family? As expected, hearing that the other party was from a Long family, Shangguan Jing was silent. Of course, she knew what a Long family meant. In the Tianwu continent, the Long family was the most special because the Long family had the help of the most powerful dragon in the world. Under normal circumstances, the other 9 superpowers wouldn't provoke the Long family at all. In any case, provoking the Long family was equivalent to provoking the dragon. No one would have nothing to do. If Shangguan Jing was a disciple of the Martial Artists Alliance, she wouldn't be so afraid. But the problem now was that Shangguan Jing was not a member of the Martial Artists Alliance, but a member of the Shangguan family. The Martial Artists Alliance and the Shangguan family were not on the same level at all. This meant that the Shangguan family and the Long family were not on the same level. Shangguan Jing could almost say that as long as the Long family wanted to, they could destroy the Shangguan family in minutes. And Shangguan Jing could even conclude that once the Long family attacked the Shangguan family, the Martial Artists Alliance would not interfere. This was the reality. Chapter 916. Boy. My name is not Boy. You can call me Black Wolf. Shangguan Jing was not a fool. Of course, she knew that Black Wolf was not his real name. Black Wolf, the Long family and the Martial Artists Alliance have always minded their own business. If you do this, won't it be a bit provocative? It had to be said that Shangguan Jing was indeed very careful. Shangguan Jing did not mention her family. Instead, she directly mentioned the Martial Artists Alliance. The reason was very simple. Not to mention Shangguan Jing, everyone knew clearly that the Shangguan family and the Long family were not at the same level. Only the Martial Artists Alliance was qualified. She snorted coldly. Longao nodded and said, "You are right. The Long family and the Martial Artists Alliance have always minded their own business. But this time, I have nothing to do with the Martial Artists Alliance. What did he mean? Shangguan Jing, I don't have much patience. Shangguan Jing certainly knew what he meant. Her face became gloomier and gloomier. Did she really have to hand over the membership card of the treasure tower? If she did that, wouldn't it mean that she was afraid of him? Young master, although this person comes from the Long family, this is the Imperial City after all. That's right, this was an Imperial City, not Dragon City. What was there to be afraid of? What was there to be afraid of? Black Wolf, this is the Imperial City. Do you want to be here? Before Shangguan Jing finished speaking, Longao said impatiently in a cold voice, cut the crap. Let's fight. If you die, I will take it myself. Before Shangguan Jing could react, Longao's body suddenly disappeared. It was the space teleportation. The sudden disappearance startled Shangguan Jing. She had no idea what had happened. Until now, Shangguan Jing finally understood the real reason why he was so fearless. It turned out that he had some strength. So what? Shangguan Jing had full confidence in her strength. He was a peak Saint Emperor with 4 Saint Venerables behind him. If they lost in a 5 versus 1 battle, they could just die. Longao made use of spatial teleportation and instantly arrived behind the 5 people. Shangguan Jing. Before Shangguan Jing could react, Longao's fists had already smashed out fiercely. 5 consecutive punches, each faster and stronger than the previous one. Even if they were Saint Kings or Saint Emperors in the past, it would be very difficult for them to block Longao's fists, let alone the fact that Longao was an emperor now. Catcher, Longao and the 5 of them exchanged punches. The 5 of them were directly sent flying. There was no suspense. The 5 of them had their left arms, chests, and even heads smashed open. 1 Saint Emperor and 4 Saint Exalts. In just a single move, 4 Saint Exalts had been killed by 4 punches. As for the last remaining Shangguan Jing, she had 3 of her ribs broken by a single punch. Shangguan Jing looked at the young man before her in shock. This was the so-called Black Wolf. Until now, Shangguan Jing had not dared to imagine that the other party's strength would be this strong. But the most frustrating thing was that she did not know what the other party's strength was at all. Peak Saint Emperor? Could he be a Saint Emperor? That shouldn't be it. But Shangguan Jing knew that be it Saint Emperor or Saint Emperor, she was no match for the other party. You're scared. Longao did not want to cause trouble. But the other party was so despicable that he could not help it. Since things had already happened, if he did not take this chance to get rid of this person, he would be in big trouble the moment this person left. Shangguan Jing was a disciple of the Shangguan family after all. He could not afford to let anything happen to her. Shangguan Jing did not say anything, but the expression on her face betrayed her. Black Wolf, this is the membership card. Not only can you go up a second time, you can go up to the 3rd level as well. I'll forget about what happened today. After receiving the membership card from the other party, Longao smiled and disappeared without a trace once again. This time, Shangguan Jing was completely scared. Just now, the other party's attack was like a thunderbolt. They did not even have the chance to resist. 1 move, just 1 punch, and 4 Saint Venerables were killed. Even she was almost killed. In your next life, I hope you won't be such a fool. Hearing the voice behind her, Shangguan Jing was shocked. Before she could react, she felt a pain on her back. She was sent flying. When she landed on the ground, she was already dead. In less than a few minutes, the 5 of them were dealt with. This was Longao's current strength. He did not even need to use the God-punishing sword or the power of the domain. Looking at the 5 corpses on the ground, Longao did not have the slightest sympathy. This was how the world worked. It was either you eat me or I eat you. Kindness to the enemy was the greatest kindness to oneself. Longao would never let himself make such a mistake. However, Longao was very careful. He burned all the 5 corpses on the ground and did not leave any traces. As a disciple of the Shangguan clan, Shangguan Jing had good talent and strength. If the Shangguan clan knew about this, then he would be in trouble. Especially if the Martial Artists Alliance wanted to intervene in this matter, he would be in even more trouble. Looking at the membership card in his hand, Longao was pleasantly surprised. He never thought that the membership card in Shangguan Jing's hand could not only go up to the second floor of the 1,000 Treasure Tower, but also to the third floor of the 1,000 Treasure Tower. It was simply an unexpected surprise. Holding the membership card in his hand, Longao did not immediately go to the 1,000 Treasure Tower. Instead, he found an inn and stayed temporarily. Shangguan Jing did not return to the Shangguan clan. It did not attract the slightest attention because Shangguan Jing was a famous good-for-nothing disciple. It was normal for her to not go home and go out. Everyone was used to it. The night was dark and the stars were dotted. However, the imperial city was extremely prosperous. It was still crowded and brightly lit. Longao ordered wine and dishes. He was originally drinking alone, but he did not expect to meet Shangguan Fei during the day. Black Dragon, I apologize to you on behalf of my cousin. He is like this. I hope you don't mind. She was a very kind girl. Longao did not vent his anger on Shangguan Fei because of the grudge between him and Shangguan Jing. It's okay, Miss Fei. To be honest, I participated in the Martial Artists Alliance competition and successfully won the flag. Later, I will join the Martial Artists Alliance. That's why I came to the Imperial City. I see. Shangguan Fei certainly knew about the Martial Artists Alliance competition organized by the Martial Artists Alliance. It was precisely because of this that Shangguan Fei's attitude towards Black Wolf changed a little. After all, the status of the Martial Artists Alliance was there. Chapter 9:17. Shangguan Fei was very familiar with the situation between her family and the Martial Artists Alliance. The four major families were the overlords of the Imperial City in name, but they were actually the watchdogs of the Martial Artists Alliance. Because of this, the four major families wanted to get closer to the Martial Artists Alliance. In this way, they would be suppressing the other three major families. I see. Miss Fei. Black Wolf. If you don't mind, you can call me Fei. Longao shrugged helplessly and called Fei. Black Wolf, you haven't joined the Martial Artists Alliance yet? Longao nodded and told the truth. To be honest, I just entered the Imperial City, so I don't know much about it. I went to the 1,000 Treasure Tower today and found that the treasures inside are very suitable for me, so I want to take a look first. Shangguan Fei smiled and showed an I understand expression. The 1,000 Treasure Tower was the biggest business under the Martial Artists Alliance. There were countless treasures inside, including the divine weapons. Not to mention Black Wolf, many people would go to the 1,000 Treasure Tower first when they entered the Imperial City. Fei, I want to take a look at the second and third floor of the 1,000 Treasure Tower. Do you have any ideas? Although he had the 10,000 Treasure Towers membership card in his hand, Longao thought about it and still decided not to provoke trouble unless it was a last resort. Who knew if there was a record of Shangguan Jing's membership card? It was better to be careful. Thinking about it, Shangguan Fei still nodded in the end and agreed. This isn't a problem. But Black Wolf, what I want to tell you is that the treasures in the Myriad Treasure Tower's second level, especially the third level, are extremely expensive. At this point, Shangguan Fei did not continue, but the meaning behind her words was very clear. How could Longao not know that the items on the second and third floor of the 10,000 Treasure Tower were very expensive? But Long Fu had already said that the divine tools on the third floor were very powerful and suitable for him. Longao was naturally unwilling to give up such a rare opportunity. Seeing that Black Wolf didn't say anything, Shangguan Fei had already guessed it. However, after giving it some thought, it made sense. Although he would be able to join the Martial Artists Alliance later, he believed that he must have been a disciple of a branch of the Martial Artists Alliance. It was not hard to imagine how many crystals such a person would have on him. If it were an ordinary person, Shangguan Fei would not have cared. However, once he joined the Martial Artists Alliance, he might be useful in the future. After much consideration, Shangguan Fei said, "Black Wolf, with my financial strength, even if I wanted to help you, I wouldn't be able to." The divine artifacts on the third floor are too expensive. I understand. There was no need for Shangguan Fei to say anything. How could Longao not know that the divine artifacts on the third floor of the Myriad Treasure Tower were incomparably expensive? After all, martial artists of the same rank, the martial artist who possessed the divine artifact would definitely have an advantage. Just like the dragon seal, blood pool, god-slaying sword, and so on in his hands. If they could reach their peak state, they could almost cause chaos in the world. Black Wolf, although I don't have the strength to help you get the divine artifacts on the third floor, you can choose any treasure on the second floor of the Myriad Treasure Tower. Take it as a gift from me. Thank you. Longao did not refuse, although he knew very well that Shangguan Fei was doing this to rope him in. After all, Shangguan Fei did not value him, but the Martial Artists Alliance. Shangguan Fei got up and left. Longao continued to drink and eat. In his mind, he was thinking about the Myriad Treasure Tower, the Martial Artists Alliance, and the Shangguan family. Although killing Shangguan Jing this time was foolproof, there was always a possibility. If the Shangguan family knew about this, Longao knew very well that he would be in big trouble. It was a quiet night. The next morning, Longao and Shangguan Fei arrived at the Myriad Treasure Tower early. This time, Longao did not take out his membership card. He followed behind Shangguan Fei and smoothly went up to the second floor. "Cousin, you're here too. Black Wolf, let me introduce you. This is my cousin, Shangguan Mu, Shangguan Jing's elder brother. Cousin, this is Black Wolf. He participated in the Martial Artists Alliance tournament and successfully obtained the flag. He will join the Martial Artists Alliance later." Shangguan Mu's face darkened when he heard his cousin's words. He did not expect the other party to be a member of the Martial Artists Alliance and win the Martial Artists Alliance tournament. Shangguan Mu was Shangguan Jing's elder brother. His talent and strength were above Shangguan Jing's. Now that he had reached the peak of the Crimson class, he was only one step away from the Orange class Great Emperor realm. "Black Wolf, nice to meet you. I'm Shangguan Mu. Nice to meet you. I'm Black Wolf." Longao and Shangguan Mu shook hands. Shangguan Fei smiled and said, "Cousin, I brought Black Wolf here to take a look. Do you have any extra crystals? Let me use them first." Nodding, Shangguan Mu took out a crystal card and said, "There are 1 million crystals in here." 1 million crystals? Longao sighed endlessly. This was the foundation of a big clan. Just the extra crystal stones were worth millions. It was hard to imagine how terrifying the foundation of the entire Shangguan clan was. "Black Wolf, I have something to ask. I hope you can answer it for me." Shangguan Fei was curious. She did not know what her cousin wanted to ask. After all, they did not know each other. "Please ask." He had a bad feeling. Had Shangguan Mu found out that he had killed Shangguan Jing? If that was the case, he would be in big trouble. "Hey Lang, I heard that you had an argument with my disappointing younger brother yesterday, and that my younger brother sent someone to follow you. I really want to ask, since yesterday afternoon, my younger brother hasn't shown his face, have you seen him?" As expected. However, Longao was not a fool. Since Shangguan Mu asked this question, there was no doubt that Shangguan Mu did not know about it. In that case, there was no need for him to admit it. "I don't know. I left the 1,000 Treasure Tower yesterday and found an inn. Fei can testify to this." Shangguan Fei nodded and said, "Cousin, Black Wolf is right. I did see him last night. You know what kind of person he is. It's very common to not see him for a few days. Fei, I have agreed to meet him today. Although third brother is sometimes a little foppish, he never dares to be late for my matters." Since things had already come to this point, Shangguan Mu's intention was clear. He wanted to say that his brother's sudden disappearance had something to do with Black Wolf. "You mean to say that your younger brother's disappearance has something to do with me? Isn't it?" "Cousin." Waving his hand, Shangguan Mu continued before Shangguan Feiya could say anything. Black Wolf, I've already found out about your background. Although I don't know what grudges you have with my younger brother, you're too ruthless. P.S. Tomorrow first, Little 9 fight for 10 chapters. Chapter 9:18. I don't know what you mean. Longao was sure that Shangguan Mu knew about it. If that was the case, he would be in big trouble. Cousin, what do you mean? Shangguan Feiya was curious. She didn't know what was going on with her cousin. He snorted. Just as Shangguan Mu was about to make a move, footsteps came from not far away. The three of them looked over and saw an old man coming from not far away. A supreme Dao martial artist. Senior Hong. Longao could clearly sense that the old man in front of him was a supreme Dao martial artist. If he was not mistaken, this person should be Hong Lang, the owner of the 1,000 Treasure Tower. Hong Lang looked very strong. As a supreme Dao martial artist, his aura alone was not something that ordinary people could have. At this moment, Hong Lang looked terrible. He glanced at the three of them and said, I don't care what grudges you have. This is the 1,000 Treasure Tower. You'd better not make trouble here. Without giving the three of them any chance to speak, Hong Lang continued, no matter who it is, as long as they dare to make trouble here, I won't show mercy. Senior Hong is right. I'll take my leave first. Shangguan Mu glanced at Black Wolf coldly and turned to leave. Since things had come to this point, Shangguan Feiya certainly would not stay. She left the 1,000 Treasure Tower with Shangguan Mu. You're Black Wolf? Nodding, Longao replied, yes, I'm Black Wolf. What can I do for you, Senior Hong? I already know about your matter. Since you've won, why don't you join the Martial Artists Alliance? Senior Hong, I just arrived at the Imperial City yesterday. I wanted to join the Martial Artists Alliance, but I accidentally came to the 1,000 Treasure Tower. So I want to take a look first. But, Longao looked at the 3rd floor. His meaning was clear. At this point, he couldn't use Shangguan Jing's membership card to go to the 3rd floor. If the Shangguan family knew about this, it would be really troublesome. Since you're a member of the Martial Artists Alliance, I'll allow you to go to the 3rd floor. However, I can give you a 10% discount at most. Thank you, Senior. Longao was very clear that if a 10% discount was calculated, it was also a lot of Jingsha. After all, every divine artifact of the Myriad Treasure Tower required a very large amount of Jingsha. Black Wolf, although I don't know whether Shangguan Jing's incident was your doing, I want to remind you that even if you join the Martial Artists Alliance, you'd better not mess with the 4 families. Between you and the 4 families, the Martial Artists Alliance won't choose you. Do you understand? After saying this, Hong Lang turned around and left. In a short while, he had already disappeared without a trace. Longao naturally knew what Hong Lang had just said. There was no doubt about it. The 4 families were the most powerful watchdogs under the Martial Artists Alliance. Not to mention himself, he believed that even a supreme Dao warrior could not compete with the 4 families. As Hong Lang had just said, if he really went to war with the Shangguan family, the Martial Artists Alliance would definitely choose the Shangguan family and not him. Although Shangguan Mu had to leave because of Hong Lang's strength, he could almost be sure that Shangguan Mu already knew about it and would definitely not let it go. He sighed deeply in his heart. He did not want to get into trouble when he entered the Imperial City this time, but things were unpredictable. If trouble came to him, what could he do? There was only one way, and that was to deal with it as it came. Longao shook his head helplessly. Since it had already happened, he did not continue to dwell on it. Instead, he left the 2nd floor and walked towards the 3rd floor. Hong Lang had just said that he could go up to the 3rd floor now and could get a 10% discount for any divine artifact he wanted. On the 3rd floor of the Myriad Treasure Tower, there were only 3 shelves. Longao roughly took a look. The number of divine tools on the entire 3rd floor did not exceed 30 pieces at most. But even so, it was hard to imagine that there were actually so many divine tools in a small Myriad Treasure Tower. Ordinary people could not even get one divine artifact, let alone 30. It was simply an astronomical figure. "Excuse me, is there anything I can help you with?" Waving his hand, Longao said, "No need. If I want something, I will take the initiative to look for you." Longao began to wander around. He did not know if he did not look, but when he looked, he was shocked. There were more than 30 divine artifacts, and even the most inferior divine artifact was worth hundreds of millions of crystal stones. What kind of concept was that? Not to mention ordinary people, even people from the 4 great clans would not be able to take out hundreds of millions of crystal stones easily. Otherwise, how could the 4 great clans give up on such powerful divine artifacts so easily? Long Fu, how is your sensing? More than 30 divine artifacts dazzled Longao. He did not know which divine artifact was suitable for him and which one was powerful. "Master, I have roughly sensed that the divine artifacts here are all low-grade divine artifacts. Although there are a few powerful divine artifacts, they are almost useless to you." What does this mean? Longao was very curious. Just now, Long Fu had already said that the divine weapons on the 3rd floor of the 1,000 Treasure Tower were very powerful, and there were some that were suitable for him. But now, he said that it was not suitable for him, and the power of the divine weapons was not much. What was going on? "Master, I sensed wrongly before. It was really a little depressing." Since Long Fu sensed wrongly, what was the use of him continuing to stay here? Longao was not willing to spend hundreds of millions of crystal stones to buy something that was useless to him, even if it was a divine artifact. Moreover, he did not even have a single crystal stone on him, let alone hundreds of millions of crystal stones. It was simply a joke. Longao was helpless to the extreme, but since it had already happened, it was useless to blame the heavens, and it was even more useless to blame Long Fu. Since the divine artifacts on the 3rd floor of the 1,000 Treasure Pagoda were not suitable for him, Longao had already decided to leave the 1,000 Treasure Pagoda this time and directly enter the Martial Artists Alliance. As for meeting Yu Yin, he was afraid that it would not be easy. Longao was very clear that with Yu Yin's talent and physique, even in the Martial Artists Alliance, she was a first-class existence. Yu Yin's identity was there. However, things were going very smoothly. No matter what, he had successfully entered the Martial Artists Alliance. When the time came, he would think of a way to see Yu Yin as soon as possible. Directly from the 3rd floor to the 1st floor, just as Longao was about to leave the 1,000 Treasure Pagoda, Long Fu's voice came again. "Strange. Long Fu, what's wrong?" "Master, I don't know why, but I keep feeling that something is wrong. Under normal circumstances, I should not have sensed wrongly, but, at this point, Long Fu seemed to be a little depressed and continued, "Master, don't leave first. Let me continue to sense. P.S. Today is the 1st of the month, 10 chapters will be released. This month, Xiaoju also wants to compete for the monthly votes list. If he can enter the top 5 of the monthly votes list today, then under the premise of 10 chapters, he will continue to release more chapters. The higher the ranking, the more chapters will be released. Xiaoju hopes that we will work together and vote more." Chapter 919. Longao didn't know what was going on, so he could only choose to stay. Inside the 1,000's treasure tower, Longao walked around, waiting for Long Fu to sense it. About half an hour later. "Master, I sensed it." "Long Fu, what happened?" Longao became more and more curious. He didn't know what was going on with Long Fu, but it had already happened. Other than continuing to stay, it seemed that there was nothing else he could do. "Master, I just sensed a very weak aura. Follow my instructions." He nodded. Longao followed Long Fu's senses and came to the corner of the 1st floor, in front of an extremely inconspicuous glass cabinet. The whole glass cabinet wasn't very big, and there was a dark red longbow inside. It was dim and looked ordinary. Longao didn't know why Long Fu asked him to come here. "Long Fu, are you talking about this bow?" "That's right, Master. I'm still not sure if this bow is the legendary one, but I can say that if it's true, Master, you've made a big fortune this time. He still didn't understand, but Longao was very clear. It seemed that he was lucky again this time. Looking for the waitress, Longao pointed to the bow in the glass cabinet and asked, "I want to buy this bow. How many crystal stones does it cost?" In front of the glass cabinet, the price of the bow was written. It cost about 80,000 crystal stones. But Longao didn't have so many crystal stones on him now. He wanted to see if it could be cheaper. "Hello, the price of this bow is 80,000 crystal stones. If you want, we can give a 10% discount. 72,000 crystal stones. 72,000 crystal stones, this number was almost nothing for a big family, but for the current Longao, it was an astronomical number. Where could he get 72,000 crystal stones? "Black Wolf, I'll give you this bow." With that, Shangguan Fei handed the crystal card in her hand to the waitress and waved her hand. The meaning was very clear. "Please wait a moment." "Fei, thank you." Longao didn't expect that Shangguan Fei would still be willing to take out the crystals to help him. No matter what, the grudge between him and Shangguan Mu had been established. "Black Wolf, I sincerely want to befriend you. Although I don't know what happened between you and my cousin, I have a presumptuous request that I hope you can agree to." He sighed deeply in his heart. However, Longao more or less had a good impression of the girl in front of him. He also treated Shangguan Fei as a friend. Otherwise, he wouldn't have accepted Shangguan Fei's crystal stone just now. "Please speak. Black Wolf, if my family is in any trouble in the future, I hope you can help me." Hearing Shangguan Fei's words, Longao was shocked. "Fei, I'm sure you're well aware of my situation. Aren't you overestimating me?" Shangguan Fei smiled and said, "I hope you can agree to my request." Looking deeply at Shangguan Fei in front of him, Longao nodded helplessly and agreed. "Black Wolf, I know you've killed Shangguan Jing, but don't worry, I won't ask too much about her. However, my cousin is looking for you outside, and I believe the family will also deal with you. You'd better be careful." As expected. It seemed that the Shangguan family already knew about the matter between him and Shangguan Jing. That's right. Longao became more and more curious. Since Shangguan Fei already knew, why did she still want to be friends with him? What was going on? For some reason, Longao had a bad feeling, especially when it came to Shangguan Fei in front of him. After a while, the waitress returned with the crystal card. She handed the crystal card to Shangguan Fei and said, "This bow is now yours. I hope you two will come again next time. Black Wolf, if there's anything you need my help with, just send me a message. I'll definitely help you if I can." After saying that, Shangguan Fei turned and left. Things were getting more and more complicated, but Longao didn't continue to dwell on this problem. Although he didn't want to find trouble, if trouble came to him, he wouldn't compromise. As the saying goes, counter soldiers with arms, water with an earth weir. Taking out the bow from the glass cabinet, Longao gently stroked it. It was dim, without any aura. No matter how he looked at it, it was an ordinary bow. He was very curious about what was so special about this bow. "Black Wolf, you bought this bow?" Hearing the voice, Longao turned and looked at Hong Lang, who had already come in front of him. He nodded and replied with a smile, "Yes, I felt that this bow was destined, so I bought it." Hong Lang seemed a little surprised. "Black Wolf, this bow is useless. I just put it here to make up the number. If you want, I can return the crystal to you. Why don't you look at another one?" Toward Hong Lang, this person, Longao also had a very favorable impression. "Thank you, senior, but I like this bow very much. In that case, I won't say anything more. By the way, there's something I want to tell you. Lu Tianxi and the Wanzhan School seem to have something against you. In the Imperial City, you can ignore the Wanzhan School, but Lu Tianxi has already applied to join the Martial Artists Alliance. So, you'd better be careful." Huh? Longao was very surprised by Hong Lang's concern. It was as if Hong Lang had become a different person. His attitude had changed 180 degrees. What on earth had happened? "Thank you, senior, for your reminder. I'll be careful." As if he thought of something, Hong Lang continued, "Black Wolf, Although I don't know what's between you and Chen Yi, I can tell you that Chen Yi is different from Lu Tianxi. Chen Yi has a very high status in the Martial Artists Alliance, and he has the Red Blood Guards. If he wants to kill you, it's very easy. Chen Yi. Longao was certainly familiar with Chen Yi. When he killed Chen Bue, he provoked Chen Yi and got Chen Yi's crystal ball. In the end, he gave it to Long Fu. Longao seemed to have forgotten about Chen Yi. Now that he mentioned Chen Yi again, he sighed inwardly. It was indeed very troublesome. Even without Hong Lang's explanation, he knew that Chen Yi had a very high status in the Martial Artists Alliance. After all, he was a warrior of the divine path, and he had the Red Blood Guards. But even so, shouldn't he enter the Martial Artists Alliance? For the sake of Yuan, Longao had already decided that no matter if it was a mountain of swords or a sea of fire in front of him, he had to give it a try. Moreover, things had already come to this point. He was only one step away. If he chose to leave at this time, not to mention others, even he himself would fiercely despise himself. Seeing that Black Wolf didn't speak, Hong Lang said with a smile, "Black Wolf, I have a way to let you enter the Martial Artists Alliance and have the ability to protect yourself. P.S. The second chapter is here. Everyone, please vote more monthly, and get some recommendation votes." Chapter 920. Senior, please tell me. Why would Hong Lang help him? After thinking about it, Longao couldn't figure out the reason. He didn't have any relationship with Hong Lang. As a supreme Dao martial artist, Hong Lang's eyes were higher than the sky. How could he help him for no reason? But the truth was right in front of him. What exactly happened? Black Wolf, after you enter the Martial Artists Alliance, if anyone finds trouble with you, you can go directly to the Vice President, Tang Hao. I believe that with Tang Hao in charge, no one will find trouble with you. Tang Hao? The president of the Martial Artists Alliance had always been elusive. Under normal circumstances, the matters of the Martial Artists Alliance were handled by the vice presidents. Senior, I don't know Vice President Tang. Do you know Miss Murong? Miss Murong? After thinking for a while, Longao seemed to have thought of something. He asked in surprise, could it be Murong Yanga? Hong Lang nodded and said with a smile, Miss Murong might be a member of the Sword Sect, but Vice Alliance leader Tang is Miss Murong's grandfather. You should know what's going on now, right? So that's how it is. Longao finally knew why Hong Lang's attitude took a 180-degree turn. It was all because of Murong Yanga. Longao was also surprised. He never thought that Murong Yanga's identity was so complicated. She actually had such a powerful grandfather. Without guessing, Longao could conclude that Murong Yanga's grandfather was the vice president of the Martial Artists Alliance. Whether it was status or strength, it was something that he couldn't imagine. Senior, if there's nothing else, I'll take my leave first. Seeing Hong Lang nod, Longao didn't continue to stay. He turned and left. After a while, he had already left the 10,000 Treasures Tower. Longao had just left when Murong Yanga's figure appeared. If Longao was still here, he might be shocked. After all, Murong Yanga suddenly appeared in the Imperial City. Uncle Hong, thank you. Yanga, I was groomed by your grandfather. How could I not help you? However, Yanga, don't lie to me. Have you fallen in love with this silly boy? Murong Yanga blushed slightly. Although she didn't say anything, her meaning was clear. Yanga, Black Wolf has offended too many people. Other than Lu Tianxi and Chen Yi, it seems that Hades and Heisho don't like him. It seems that things are a bit troublesome. Don't be afraid. With grandfather's help, I don't believe that anyone would dare to touch him. Shrugging helplessly, Hong Lang didn't say much. After all, it was none of his business. Although he was very grateful to Tang Hao, Black Wolf had nothing to do with him. He couldn't offend a powerful enemy for someone he didn't know. Leaving the Myriad Treasure Tower, the corners of Longao's mouth curled into a trace of a cold smile, heading in the direction of the left. It was still near the garbage dump. You've been following me all the way. Come out. Black Wolf, Even if you're a member of the Martial Artists Alliance, you're too arrogant. How dare you kill my brother? I'll make you pay with your blood today. Shongguan Mu was the only one. As a peak Crimson martial artist, Shongguan Mu was extremely confident that he could kill a peak Saint Emperor in less than 3 moves. The aura emitted from Longao's body was indeed that of a peak Saint Emperor. Your brother was courting death. What does it have to do with me? You're really arrogant. Shangguan Mu, I'll let you go this time since Fei Er and I know each other. Remember, don't mess with me. You. It was funny. Shangguan Mu didn't take Black Wolf seriously at all. A mere Saint Emperor was just a joke in front of a great emperor. Black Wolf, do you think that you can rest easy after joining the Martial Artists Alliance? Before Longao could speak, Shangguan Mu continued, Black Wolf, don't think that you can strut around just because you've joined the Martial Artists Alliance. I can tell you clearly that in the Imperial City, if my Shangguan clan wants to kill you, it's a piece of cake. Don't you think you're talking too much? Longao was depressed. He couldn't be bothered to say more. Longao was very clear in his heart that this battle was unavoidable. Since that was the case, why should he waste time? Before Shangguan Mu could continue speaking, Longao's body suddenly disappeared. With the help of spatial teleportation, Longao's body appeared behind Shangguan Mu in the next second. Shangguan Mu was shocked. He didn't expect Lin Fan to suddenly disappear. He wouldn't have thought of such a situation even if he was beaten to death. Although he didn't know what happened, Shangguan Mu didn't dare to be careless. He turned around and threw out a palm strike. The terrifying force of his palm strike was like an avalanche, rolling towards Lin Fan. Longao didn't dodge at all and threw out a punch of his own. The fist and palm collided, and the force dispersed. Longao and Shangguan Mu retreated at the same time. At this moment, Shangguan Mu's face finally changed. It was extremely gloomy. Crimson Emperor. Lin Fan said each word in a deep voice. Shangguan Mu didn't expect Lin Fan to be a peak Saint Emperor, but a Crimson Emperor like him. No wonder Lin Fan could kill his brother. With just one move, Shangguan Mu could already feel how terrifying Lin Fan's strength was. It seemed like it was impossible for him to defeat Lin Fan alone. Black Wolf, I have to admit that you're very strong. But if you want to leave here today, before Shangguan Mu could finish his words, countless people had appeared around them. They were the people from the Shangguan clan. There were more than 10 great emperors among them, and they were all great emperors who were above the Crimson Emperor realm. Uncle, this is the person who killed little Jing. Shangguan II, the elder of the Shangguan clan, was also a purple-grade Great Emperor realm martial artist. He was only a step away from the titled Great Emperor realm. He could break through the titled Great Emperor realm at any time. Shangguan II had personally come after Shangguan Jing's death. It wasn't hard to imagine the consequences of Longao's actions. Among the 10 great emperors, there were even purple-grade great emperors. Longao did not cry out in surprise when he saw the Shangguan clan's men surrounding him. He was very calm. It was as if he didn't care about the Shangguan clan at all. Seeing this, Shangguan II clapped his hands in admiration and said, Black Wolf, I'd like to ask. What's the grudge between you and my nephew that you have to kill him? Longao was very wary of this purple-grade great emperor who had suddenly appeared. After all, he had just broken through to the Crimson Emperor realm. He hadn't even stabilized his realm yet, let alone fighting a purple-grade Great Emperor realm martial artist. However, since things had already happened, he didn't back down. P.S. The 3rd chapter has arrived. I just took a look. Rank 20 on the monthly votes list. DADA, work hard to get into the top 5. Xiaoju, work hard too. Try to get more chapters. Chapter 921. At this point, Longao didn't continue to hide it. The Shangguan family must have known about it, otherwise, they wouldn't have made such a big fuss. Longao knew clearly that he was about to enter the Martial Artists Alliance, and the Shangguan family was so afraid of the Martial Artists Alliance that they wouldn't casually make a move. Who are you? Shangguan II, Shangguan Jing is my nephew. He wanted to kill me, I had no choice. Simple. Longao didn't find any other reason. Nodding, Shangguan Tu looked at his subordinates and suddenly waved his hand, saying, "Kill." Shangguan Tu had full confidence that even if the Martial Artists Alliance knew about this, the Martial Artists Alliance wouldn't choose to deal with the Shangguan family for a mere Crimson Great Emperor. In the Imperial City, the 4 great families were the most capable assistants of the Martial Artists Alliance. Unless the Shangguan family betrayed them, the Martial Artists Alliance wouldn't give up on the Shangguan family. Because of this, Shangguan Tu directly gave the order to kill. The ordinary disciples didn't make a move, the opponent was a Crimson Great Emperor after all. In this way, the 10 Great Emperors in the surroundings separated from the 2 Orange Great Emperors and attacked together. Not daring to be careless, Longao used spatial teleportation and suddenly disappeared. Disappeared into thin air? Shangguan Tu was taken aback when he saw the other party disappear right under his nose. He didn't know how the other party did it. Not to mention a great emperor, even a supreme Dao warrior wouldn't be able to do this. The 2 Orange Great Emperors also didn't expect the opponent to suddenly disappear. Before the 2 Orange Great Emperors could react, a terrifying dragon roar and sword aura came from behind them. Like a violent storm, it instantly engulfed the 2 Orange Great Emperors. Everyone in the surroundings sucked in a breath of cold air. The opponent was just a mere Crimson Great Emperor. Under normal circumstances, 1 against 2, facing 2 Orange Great Emperors at the same time, should be a matter of minutes. But the result? Kill. Following Shangguan Tu's order, a Yellow Great Emperor rushed out and joined the battle in the blink of an eye. The dragon roar and sword chi continued to resound throughout the world. The surrounding space seemed to be trembling. Longao was already having a hard time fighting 1 against 2. Now that another Yellow Grade Great Emperor had joined the fray, the pressure on Longao instantly multiplied. Longao knew that in a 1 versus 3 situation, he had no chance of winning. However, Longao didn't leave. Things had already come to this point. If he didn't do something practical, the Shangguan family would think that he was a pushover. So what if it was 1 against 3? The 3 great emperors released their respective realm powers. The realms stacked on top of each other. The 3 great emperors believed that they could crush their opponents with their realms stacked together. But what was the result? Not only the 3 martial emperors, but everyone else was also dumbfounded as they watched the battle unfold before them. They had thought that the other party would definitely die, but they had never expected that the other party would be able to disregard the overlapping domains of the 3 martial emperors. The slaughter domain was considered the pinnacle of all realms. How could an ordinary great emperor's realm suppress the slaughter domain? Moreover, the massacre territory that Longao had condensed contained a massacre aura that mainly came from the blood pool. Even so, Longao still didn't dare to be careless. With his current strength, he might be able to fight against an orange grade great emperor. However, it was almost impossible to fight against a yellow grade great emperor. The deity slaying sword finally appeared. Longao used the Emperor Dragon's 9 fatal strikes. At the same time, the dragon roar resounded. Just as the 3 martial emperors were about to besiege the other party, a shocking scene suddenly appeared. The black wolf disappeared and never appeared again. Everyone looked at each other. They didn't know what had happened. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, it was really hard to imagine that someone could leave in such a situation. Uncle. Waving his hand, Shangguan Tu's face was extremely gloomy at this moment. It was as ugly as it could get. This time, he personally took action and brought along 10 martial emperors. Even so, they still couldn't kill this person. If this matter were to spread out, where would his face be? Where would the Shangguan clan's face be? How would he explain it to the clan head? This person isn't simple. It seems like we can only ask the old ancestor to take action. Uncle, is there a need to ask the old ancestor? It's not that simple. This person was scared by us. If nothing unexpected happens, I believe he will definitely join the Martial Artists Alliance. At that time, if we forcefully kill him, the Martial Artists Alliance will definitely not be happy. Martial Artists Alliance. Shangguan Mu, of course, knew what his uncle meant. Although the Shangguan clan was one of the overlords of the imperial city, they were only a joke in front of the martial artists alliance. Not to mention the Shangguan clan, even if the 4 major clans joined forces, they wouldn't dare to provoke the martial artists alliance. This was the unshakable position of the martial artists alliance. Uncle, even if that's the case, isn't it making a mountain out of a molehill to ask the old ancestor to take action for a black wolf? Shangguan Mu knew what it meant to ask the old ancestor to take action. His clan had instructed him not to trouble the old ancestor if there was nothing important. The old ancestor is the deputy chief of the martial artists alliance. If he wants to kill a black wolf, it's just a matter of minutes. Even if others know about it, I believe no one will dare to interfere. Only the old ancestor can take action. The Shangguan clan had a super expert. He was the deputy chief of the martial artists alliance. This was the real reason why the Shangguan clan had been standing tall among the 4 major clans for so many years. The deputy chief of the martial artists alliance was second only to the chief of the martial artists alliance. It wasn't hard to imagine how powerful the old ancestor of the Shangguan clan was. Uncle, should we discuss this with the old ancestor? The old ancestor that Shangguan Mu mentioned was the clan leader of the Shangguan clan. I'll talk to my elder brother. What you need to do now is to contact the Martial Artists Alliance as soon as possible and see if there's a way to deal with this person. If it's possible, we don't need to trouble the old ancestor. Got it, uncle. This time, the Shangguan clan had mobilized so many people, but they did not even know how the other party disappeared. It could be considered as a failure among failures, causing everyone to feel depressed. From the beginning to the end, they did not know how the other party did it. After all, other than the 10 great emperors, there was also a purple grade great emperors. If this matter were to be spread out, it wouldn't do any good to the Shangguan clan's reputation. That was exactly the case. Shangguan too immediately gave the order to keep this matter a secret. No one was allowed to leak this matter out. This way, other than the 2 parties, almost no one else knew about this matter. Chapter 922. Not far from the garbage dump. Looking at the people of the Shangguan clan who had all left, Longao stood quietly in the same place. No one knew what he was thinking. Longao was not happy that he had teleported away this time. The reason was simple. This incident had alarmed the entire Shangguan clan. If there were no accidents, even if he entered the Martial Artists Alliance, he would still be in trouble. He shrugged helplessly. Since things had already come to this point, Longao could not do anything about it. Longao did not continue to dwell on this issue. He immediately entered the dragon seal space and took out the bow that he had just obtained. Long Fu, the bow you mentioned earlier is very likely to be the legendary Annihilation Divine Bow? Nodding, Long Fu stared at the bow in Longao's hand. He seemed to be in disbelief. Master, under normal circumstances, this bow should not appear here. At this point, Long Fu thought for a moment before continuing. Legend has it that there is a godly bow of extinction in the world. At its peak, the godly bow of extinction could even destroy the world. Its power was almost on par with the blood pool. He was startled. Regarding the meaning of what Long Fu said, Longao already heard it clearly. He had never imagined that such a powerful divine artifact would fall into his hands. His luck was simply too good. However, Longao was also curious. After all, the silent god bow in his hand looked dull. It did not look like a super artifact that could destroy the world. Could Long Fu have sensed wrongly? As if he could guess what his master was thinking, Long Fu pointed at the silent god bow and said, "Master, if I'm not wrong, the silent god bow in your hand not only had its spirit extinguished, but also suffered serious injuries. If you want to recover it, I'm afraid." Although Long Fu did not finish his words, the meaning in his words was very clear. So that was it. He sighed in his heart. No matter how powerful the divine obliteration bow was, it was only an ordinary item now. Long Fu had already said that it was almost impossible to restore the divine obliteration bow. Long Fu, if that's the case, what's the point of obtaining the godly obliteration bow? Master, I know what you mean. However, the annihilation godly bow hasn't completely disappeared. As long as we work hard, it's not impossible for us to restore it to its peak state. Longao shrugged his shoulders helplessly. Of course, he knew that it was better than nothing. Perhaps one day, he would be able to recover to his peak with this godly annihilation bow. When that time came, wouldn't he be able to do whatever he wanted? Master, although the current annihilation divine bow is already heavily damaged, as long as you pour all of your power into it, I believe that a single shot from the bow will be enough to instantly kill an orange-level Great Emperor. Instantly killing an orange-level Great Emperor martial artist? It would be a lie to say that he wasn't tempted. Longao knew very well what Long Fu's words meant. Even with his current strength and all of his trump cards, it was still unknown if he could kill an orange-level Great Emperor martial artist. With this divine obliteration bow, didn't it mean that he could instantly kill an orange-level Great Emperor martial artist if he wanted to? He was extremely surprised. Not to mention whether the divine obliteration bow could be restored to its peak state, just this point alone was enough to make countless martial artists fight for it. Long Fu, are there any repercussions? Longao wasn't a fool. Even if the divine obliteration bow hadn't been restored to its peak state, with his current strength, he wouldn't be able to easily use the divine obliteration bow. That's why Longao had already guessed that if he used the divine obliteration bow and could instantly kill an orange-level Great Emperor martial artist, he wouldn't believe that there wouldn't be any repercussions. The divine obliteration bow was like the space-time wheel. Although the space-time wheel was extremely powerful and could even break open a space-time tunnel, every time it was used, he had to be prepared to sacrifice himself. Just as expected. Nodding, Long Fu said helplessly, Master, since you've already guessed it, I won't hide it from you. The divine obliteration bow is too powerful. Even in your current state, if you want to use the divine obliteration bow, I'm afraid all of your strength will be instantly drained. As for the repercussions, as long as it's not a life and death situation, it shouldn't be a problem. Instantly, Longao understood what was going on. If he were to use the annihilation divine bow, all the energy in his body would be drained in an instant. At that time, he would be a fish on the chopping block. Therefore, he would not use the annihilation divine bow unless he had no other choice. No matter what, the divine obliteration bow was still his trump card. Carefully putting away the divine obliteration bow, Longao left the dragon seal space. Longao was more or less solemn as he had completely offended the Shangguan clan this time. No matter what, the Shangguan clan was one of the 4 great clans of the imperial city. Their strength and foundation were there for all to see. Longao didn't immediately enter the martial artists alliance. Instead, he prepared to inquire about Yu Yin. He was very clear that with Yu Yin's talent and strength, once she was focused on cultivating by the martial artists alliance, he believed that there would be news about Yu Yin in the imperial city. But what was the result? Longao inquired for an entire day, but he still didn't get any news about Yu Yin. Could it be that he guessed wrong? The next day, Longao was eating in a restaurant when he accidentally saw an acquaintance. He wasn't unfamiliar with this person at all. Lei Luo, a warrior of the divine path. Back then, he was the representative of the Martial Artists Alliance to the world of the 9 continents. He was the shameless person who almost killed him. Longao didn't have a good impression of this person. However, Longao knew that as a warrior of the divine path, Lei Luo's status in the Martial Artists Alliance was no small matter. Therefore, he didn't act recklessly. Now, Longao spent a lot of time to change his appearance. In other words, even if he stood in front of Lei Luo now, he believed that Lei Luo wouldn't be able to recognize him. Longao had already thought of a countermeasure. This time, when he entered the Martial Artists Alliance, he definitely couldn't use his original appearance. Otherwise, forget about taking Yu Yin away, he might not even be able to see Yu Yin. Suddenly, Longao's lips curled into a cold smile. Although he couldn't fight with Lei Luo face to face, Longao didn't plan to let go of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to play with Lei Luo before entering the Martial Artists Alliance. If he hadn't been so lucky, he believed that he would have been played to death by Lei Luo. Longao was a person who would take revenge. No matter who the other party was, if an ordinary person saw that Lei Luo was a warrior of the divine path, even if he had a grudge against him, he believed that he wouldn't act rashly. After all, the strength of a warrior of the divine path was no small matter. In front of a warrior of the divine path, a great emperor warrior was only a joke. However, Longao was different. He knew that there were tigers in the mountain, but he still went to the mountain. P.S. 34th in the monthly votes list. Sigh. Chapter 923. Inside the Imperial City. Longao got up and followed Lei Luo silently. With the help of teleportation, Longao's god-slaying sword fiercely slashed out in broad daylight. At the same time, the sword chi was like a storm, filling the surroundings with sword chi. Lei Luo, who didn't have the slightest bit of vigilance, was surprised by the sneak attack of the sword chi. As a supreme Dao warrior, and in the Imperial City, the headquarters of the Martial Artists Alliance, Lei Luo didn't think that someone would dare to sneak attack him in such a situation. That person was simply courting death. A supreme Dao warrior was indeed a supreme Dao warrior. With a turn, Lei Luo's body was covered with a chi shield, blocking the sword chi outside. This was the strength of a supreme Dao warrior. Who is it? Looking around coldly, Lei Luo didn't dare to imagine that someone would sneak attack him in the Imperial City. It was simply like pulling a tooth out of a tiger's mouth. Many people were watching the show. Although Lei Luo's voice wasn't loud, everyone could hear it. No one admitted it. Inside the Dragon Seal space. Just now, with the help of teleportation, Longao directly entered the Dragon Seal space, regardless of whether he succeeded in killing Lei Luo or not. Longao had full confidence that once he entered the Dragon Seal space, Lei Luo wouldn't be able to find him even if he turned the entire Imperial City upside down. The corner of his mouth curved into a cold smile. Master, with your strength, you're still not his opponent. Waving his hand, Longao smiled and said, "Of course I know that. I'm just accompanying him. Lei Luo, that bitch, tricked me before. This time, I'm just taking back some interest. So that's how it is." Long Fu didn't continue speaking, while Longao just smiled. This matter wasn't over yet. He would let Lei Luo know how painful it was to be depressed. Cowardly as a mouse, daring to do it but not daring to come out. Lei Luo couldn't be sure who did it, but since the other party could do it without anyone noticing, there was no doubt that the other party's strength couldn't be underestimated. Lei Luo could almost be sure that the person who sneaked attacked him was definitely not an expert from the Martial Artists Alliance. In that case, who could it be? He was very depressed. He had been ambushed, but he couldn't even see the shadow of the other party. If this matter were to spread, he would lose a lot of face. He didn't dare to stay any longer. The other party's strength was enough to kill him, although he still didn't know why the other party didn't fight him openly. Before he could even take 3 steps, several bursts of sword chi shot toward him, one after another. Lei Luo was extremely depressed. Who was this person? Why did he want to sneak an attack on him? Who is it? Come out and fight me if you have the ability. No one answered. Lei Luo was able to block the sword chi with ease. However, no matter who it was, they would be enraged if they kept getting sneak attacked like this. Mother **ku, coward. Lei Luo, today, I will show you what retribution is. Suddenly, an aged voice came from all around. It was almost certain that the owner of the voice was definitely an old man. All the people who were watching a good show all hid themselves. 2 supreme Dao warriors were fighting, who knew whether or not the fish in the moat would be implicated. Lei Luo was also shocked because he could only hear the voice, but couldn't see the person. What did this mean? Lei Luo was very confident in his strength. Even if the God of Heaven was here, he wouldn't be able to hide himself and only hear the voice. Who was the other party? Was the other party a supreme Dao warrior? Impossible. Lei Luo was very clear that the supreme Dao warriors were all super powerful warriors. There was no need for them to go through so much trouble to deal with him. Moreover, this was the Imperial City, the headquarters of the Martial Artists Alliance. Other forces wouldn't dare to cause trouble here. After thinking about it, Lei Luo still couldn't think of a reason. Senior, I don't know how I have offended you. If I have, I hope you will forgive me. The more mysterious something was, the more threatening it was. Lei Luo was really scared. After all, at this time, he still couldn't pinpoint the other party's location. It was hard to imagine what would happen if the other party wanted to kill him. Because of this, Lei Luo chose to compromise. A cold snort came from all around. Lei Luo, we can write off the grudges between us, but you have to do one thing. I am also happy, so let's forget about this. Grudges. Lei Luo was extremely depressed. He really couldn't think of a powerful warrior he had offended. The other party was obviously powerful, but he didn't dare to show up. It could only mean one thing, that this person was a member of the Martial Artists Alliance, which meant they were on the same side. It was a very simple reason. If the Martial Artists Alliance knew that one of their own was going against one of their own, even if the other party was a supreme Dao warrior, it would be hard to explain. Moreover, the other party obviously didn't want to kill him. Otherwise, he would have fallen down by now. Senior, please tell me. Things had already come to this point. Did Lei Luo have a choice? Kneel on the ground and keep kneeling in the Martial Artists Alliance. Then, we will write off the grudges between us. You are going too far. Lei Luo's face suddenly became ugly. As the saying went, one shouldn't go too far. As a supreme Dao warrior, his status and reputation were all there. If he were to kneel on the ground and return to the Martial Artists Alliance, where would his reputation go? Lei Luo was extremely angry. He was like an erupting volcano. However, thinking of the other party's mysterious and powerful strength, he was instantly doused with cold water. Lei Luo, you should know your limits. Don't think that you can ignore everything just because you are a supreme Dao warrior. I can tell you that in this world, there are many people who can kill you. Who was the other party? Lei Luo was getting more and more confused. He still couldn't figure out which powerful warrior he had offended. However, it was impossible for him to kneel on the ground and return to the Martial Artists Alliance. He would rather be killed by the other party than do such a lowly thing. Lei Luo was not a fool. He knew clearly that the other party was doing this to threaten him. However, regardless of the other party's strength, until now, he couldn't even determine the other party's location. If he hadn't experienced it himself, he wouldn't have believed that such a thing could happen. No matter what, he was a genuine supreme Dao warrior. Who are you? What grudges do I have with you? A straightforward person doesn't do underhanded things. Even if I die, I want to die knowing the reason. Show yourself. In the dragon seal space. Longao kept smiling. However, he couldn't leave the dragon seal space. Although his cultivation had successfully broken through to the Crimson Great Emperor realm, he still knew his own strength. If it was a one-on-one battle, he wouldn't be Lei Luo's opponent. This was without a doubt. P.S. The monthly votes are a little low. I hope everyone will vote for Little 9. Little 9 will also work hard. This is the 6th chapter. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.